The following conversation is with Sathish Kumar. Satish is a freelance concept designer as well as an educator with his online platform Art Train Academy, where he helps students at different levels of skill and expertise to build workflows that would aid them in their entertainment design careers. Satish and I had a wonderful conversation about setting up systems and habits in your daily life that not only allows you to be more productive and creative, but also helps you find an organic balance between your work and life. Being a person of profound humility, Satish was genuinely candid about how he optimized his life with simple practices, which built over time and started giving him exponential results in his artistic abilities, running his online business, and taking care of his family as well as his own physical and mental health. I hope you all enjoy listening to this conversation as much as I have enjoyed documenting it. My name is Ayan DC, and you're listening to Art Chats. Here we go. Makes sense. But how have you
Yeah.
been, man? It's been a while. Good to see
Yeah,
you.
I think it's going good. It's going good. I just like doing client stuff, school, and pretty much nothing to complain, to be frank, and just enjoying the life and yeah, nothing too planned or nothing too little. So it's just going with the flow mostly, and
That's
and
really cool. I
yeah,
mean, I
and
guess someone like you who has quite a few responsibilities on his shoulders, like being able to go with the flow and enjoy life in the process of it is also like it's a pretty beautiful thing to at least witness because I'm guessing there's a lot of pressure on you when it comes to work and there's
mm,
family involved that you're teaching as well.
mm.
So how does that balance work out for you? Like I guess you're being able to balance it out very well.
How do I balance? I think it's really tough, to be frank. It's not
Hmm.
easy, and it's like because the more and more responsibility you take on your shoulder, it's
Right.
like some areas might be getting affected, right? Maybe
Hmm.
sometimes we get too much focused on grinding, then there's
Right.
another area, maybe the health might be affected, and
Right.
and maybe let's say we focus too much on like work, then there's no like life on the other side.
Hmm.
And what is the use of like earning so much money and like not spending out and like and in a usual way, or the way that you want the lives to be, the lifestyle that you want to live. And again, for me, again, it's a long process, and it's like I'm still figuring out it step by step.
Right.
And let's say the more I think, as we mature, I think we slowly start to think, oh, certain things we don't want to focus on, right?
Right.
Because those are the areas it's not needed. And yeah, I think right now for me it's all about like family, my daughter,
Hmm.
and my wife. Like, yeah, it's a small circle, but like giving importance to those areas is also really, really important. Then my professional work or personal work or something, right? So that's the main thing that I'm doing recently for last 1 to 2 years right now,
Right.
setting up a balance between these areas.
Hmm.
And I even like figured out a way where um, morning is just for making, and afternoon is for management, and evening is for family, and night is for
Right.
me. And it's just this pattern is what I'm just doing right now.
Hmm.
And no, again, not strict. I need to adapt and keep
Hmm.
it organic. So
Right.
if I could do something for me, because that's also like the problem for me before is like, let's say I might be focusing on one area too much,
Hmm.
right? The client work, if it is, I might be spending 8 to 10 hours, then I may be missing out personal work or family.
Right.
And then how can I just optimize it in a way where I could just like balance? So it's not like I'm giving equal importance, let's say 4 hours for this, 4 hours for that or something. Even if it is like a
Right.
30 minutes to 1 hour, it's good,
All
right?
right.
So let's say evening is for family, is like we going out for a walk and like playing with my daughter, and like taking my dog for a walk and playing with him for a while. So it's like maybe
Hmm.
1 to 2 hours, that's it, right?
Right.
But that is also crucially important in your process. And if you focus too much on one area, you don't realize that very quickly, but as you grow, right, like your life will be like affected in a serious way, right? Let's say one recent thing is like where after COVID is like health wise many people might have affected, right? Like sitting in one place, not going out, and like doing things. So my mindset is also completely changed. Okay, if I can't go to gym, I can't like do get into the fitness, right? So that mindset has changed right now. Okay, I don't want to like
How much impact
worry.
has physical fitness played a role in your current lifestyle where you're managing so many things? What role does physical fitness play for you at this point, and to what
Oh yeah,
capacity?
yeah. I think yeah, it's like right now. Let's say just a couple of months back, I
Right,
started getting back into that routine of like keeping me healthy. Like for me,
right,
it's not about like physical fitness; it's about getting into that certain aesthetics, right?
right.
So I would compare this. I even like read an article,
Uh-huh.
the Japanese culture, right? Like they just
Mhm.
move a lot. They don't
Right,
have to have. They don't have this fitness gym lifestyle, right?
right.
Basically over there. So I thought like, okay, what if we adapt that kind of a lifestyle? And I
Hmm.
said myself, if I can reduce the friction of like because it's hard for me to get into the gym and just work out for 1 hour and like come
Right.
back and I feel like let's say physically off, so that I can't get back into my personal work or like other areas. I may be
Right.
too tired. So I thought like, okay, let's reduce all that friction and just go for like 3 to 4 rounds of walking,
Mhm.
right? And eat healthy. That's it. And
Hmm.
and just that one thing completely changed. I just like started working out even in this small space,
Right. Right.
like behind this office space, right? Like
Hmm.
5 to 10 minutes. That's it.
So you're trying to essentially remove the sedentary aspect from your life as much as you can with the scope of work that you have. You're trying
Yeah,
to
yeah.
incorporate
Because
more
let's say
movement in
instead of
that
working
schedule.
out for 1 hour, what if I just work out for 5 minutes? That friction is reduced right now. All
Right.
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 Right. And like I'm feeling energetic because like my
Hmm.
mindset is like completely changed right now, because I used to be a guy who used to go to gym in the morning in 5 a.m. or something like that
All
and
right.
lift heavy weights. And now that mindset is completely changed, because like if I need to ask this one question, what kind of a lifestyle do I need to live? Right. It's a
Right.
healthy
Right.
lifestyle. It's not the aesthetics.
Right.
And that small change in mindset, it's really helped
Hmm.
me, because now I feel light and like and feeling energetic throughout the day. Right.
Hmm.
And it's just that one change I did, and now the friction is reduced, right? Like I didn't even buy equipment. I was just like doing like this body weight exercise and stuff.
What do you mean when you say friction? Like, what's the
The
resistance
friction
that you're
means
talking
is
about?
the friction, what I do is like if the something that you want to do,
Right.
but it's taking you to do that in a long, like let's say you want to go for a run, right?
Right.
And or go to a gym. Maybe your gym
Hmm.
is like 2 kilometers from your home,
Right.
right? Our brain tells that is to do that sometimes like, yeah, let's do it tomorrow,
Hmm.
right? The simple thing is to reduce that friction. If you want to still want to go to gym, it's just put your shoes,
Right.
right? And it's the same mindset for me right now. Okay, I don't want to put my shoes. I don't want to go to gym. What is the one thing I need to do is like just like start like exercising inside the space.
Right.
All right, body weight exercise, not even like
Hmm.
lift weight lifting, right?
Right.
So and I don't want to buy equipments
Hmm.
and all those things. It's just like 5 to 10 minutes of workout on a constant basis, and just eating healthy. And because like the previous thing is where you'll be going to gym, but you'll be like your health, like food habits is bad,
Right.
then you
Right.
don't see a good results,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, that is a mindset I'm trying to apply in every aspect of my life and every area of my life. Let's say it could be a work, right? A personal work,
Right.
and you'd be working out for 8 to 10 hours in a day, and you feel like you don't have energy to do a personal work,
Hmm.
right? Then what if I do something first thing in the morning, that is my personal work, before I even starting my professional work?
Right. Right.
Right, sketching something for me, 1 hour or 45 minutes, and boom, I'm done something for myself right now. Let's get into the professional
Right.
work.
Right.
Right now we don't have a compliance saying that we don't have an energy to do personal work or something like that,
Hmm.
right? That friction is reduced right now,
That also
right?
takes away this possibility that you would have this thought process that, okay, I am sacrificing something in my life for the sake of doing something else because
Yeah,
you're taking care of your health. It's
Yeah.
allowing you to set yourself up for having more energy in the morning to do your own work. Now that you've
Yeah.
done your personal work, you are free of that idea that, okay, my professional work is not over, like taking over my life, right?
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
taking over
yeah.
my
Because
time for my family and
that's the thing is
everything.
like few years back, right? Like few years back,
Mhm.
me as an artist, like used to give an excuse saying that is after coming from studio, no, I'm
Hmm.
tired and
Right,
I can't do anything right now. I go and watch Netflix or like watch some documentaries or like because like we always go for easy thing.
right.
All right. So we give excuse, we go for easy things. And now what I'm doing is to get into the flow state,
Mhm.
all right? Even this 1 hour or 45 minutes of morning personal work really helping me to get into that flow state so that I can easily translate that to the professional work.
Right.
All right. So, and let's say once I reach that flow state and work for some hours, then my energy will be drained. And
Mhm.
that's where I'm thinking not to force myself to do get into like personal work or something. Now I
Right.
need to do a management because
Right.
my energy is very little. Like I'm not like creative in the afternoon. So you need to find your flow state when it's happening. And maybe for some people it's like in the morning, or some people it's afternoon or evening or even nighttime, right? So and so what I do is like, again, you don't need to be like a morning person, like you don't need to
Right.
wake like 5 a.m or 6 a.m to do that flow state. I start my flow state by 10 a.m,
Right. Right.
right? So you just need to see what works, because like let's say now I have a family, I have a kid,
Mm.
and I need to do all those morning things to support the family. Then once I finish everything, it's almost like 9 a.m or something. All
Right.
right.
All right.
Then I just take let's say I've been doing recently a lot of traditional sketches. So what I do is like take a pen and pencil and
Mhm.
then start doing sketches, right? Like
Right.
not worrying about failing, right? Like I'm not like trying to do like a amazing creative project or something, right? Like an IP or something. It's just very little, just like doing
Mhm.
studies like this, right? So
Right. Yeah, I've been seeing
nothing.
some of these sketches that you've been
Yeah,
putting up. They're beautiful.
yeah, and it's again the same thing, reducing the friction. I'm not like
Right.
being to trying to be one or designing amazing worlds or something. I'm just seeing some reference and
Hmm.
just drawing in paper, right? Like it's
Right.
going back to that root. And as a child, like what did you enjoy the most, right?
Right.
It's just drawing,
It's
right?
almost
Like
a
you're not.
meditative process at that point for you.
Yeah, yeah, it's basically that when you enter into that mode
Mhm.
or state, you get into the flow and you enjoy the process, then one thing leads to another thing.
Right.
All right.
Right.
So let's say every day I started doing this daily sketches, and like again, I was doing a lot of 3D and like a digital for
Hmm.
last, like let's say for last 6 7 years.
Right.
Now I feel like I need to change the medium. All right. I started
Hmm.
doing like ink sketches. I started doing that pencil sketches. It felt really good. It felt
Hmm.
really, really good to change and switch mediums. And then that gives you a different perspective. You started learning about that medium, and you
Right.
started to figure out like a new artist that you never even analyzed their works before. And
Hmm.
somehow all this process is kind of helping out in every area. All right.
Right.
What I'm doing in traditional sketches right now, it is kind of helping me out in like my professional work or personal work, in which if I'm using 3D or 2D, whatever
Right.
process, right?
Right.
So but the things that I'm learning in this medium is like helping me a
Hmm.
lot to apply that to my other mediums,
Right.
right?
Right.
Simplification, or let's say you try to like learn from other traditional artists, right? Like
Right.
because it's and you're going to like let's say figure out new artist, because you might be
Hmm.
only having following a certain artist because that's what helping you in your field.
Right.
Right now you're going back to another area and trying out like different, like seeing different people and their approach.
Right.
And then suddenly that idea kind of like sparks you to get better in that your previous area.
Hmm.
Let's say I'm a concept artist who works like mostly in 3D and like let's say all the digital tools, right? So all this other small learnings that I'm doing as a daily habits kind of helping me in a longer run.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that's why we need to have like a set of routines. again, you don't need to be perfect. If something is off, my mindset about routine is all about like every day is a new day. All right, it's like a
Right.
new page. If something goes off yesterday, like I can just like
Mhm.
start from scratch again next day. All right.
Right.
So if something goes off in the morning, I can just be doing good in evening. I don't need to be like stressed out as like nothing is working out or something, because all these perspectives keep changing like every year
Right.
for me. All right. I used to think differently before. Now I'm using to think differently. And yeah, I think that's about like balancing for me. Right. As I said, like this pattern really worked out. I figured out like where afternoon is for management, because now I added
Mhm.
like another responsibilities, which is school. All right.
Right.
So
Right.
teaching. So sometimes I do go and check my students progress, and give feedback for them in Discord. And then evening, like after a certain time, um like go for a walk with my family, right, my kid and
Right.
wife, and like maybe it's like 30 minutes, like, so that time is also really important. Maybe I might have missed that before
Mhm.
because I was grinding on other things.
Right. Right.
Right. So, and then the another problem is, we do for every, like, let's say we might be focusing on helping other people, we might be focusing on helping families and like doing professional work, client work and everything, then we forget
Mhm.
about ourselves.
Right.
All right. So then that's also issue for me, because I was stressing out so much on other areas, I completely forgot about me. And that's
Mhm.
when I figured out like I need to set a time for myself,
Right.
like in
Right.
the night, right? Like once my daughter goes to sleep, and like my dog won't disturb me during the night, and like I can just sit into that zen mode, and
Mhm.
and just do something for me. It can be like a reading, it can be like a project work, and personal project, or
Right.
maybe spending time with my students doing hangouts and stuff. So, and there's no clear rule that I want to do this, right? Like I
Right.
can do anything. I don't want to regret anything or feeling guilty that I'm watching movies, because it's my alone time.
Right. 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 I want to come back to one part of this conversation. You seem like someone who really enjoys the thrill of trying new things.
Yeah.
Okay, because even when I've seen your page on Instagram, there's always the concept of 1% better every day. That's a
Hmm.
very interesting thing, but also like the resistance that you have in the very beginning, the way you started off with sketches in the morning, it's
Hmm.
something very new suddenly after like many years of working on professional projects where 3D tools have to be used, everything's on the computer. Then shifting to something completely traditional, right? It has a bit of a resistance to it. I mean, on a personal level, I felt the resistance. So, like, talk to me about that thrill that you might be seeking while trying out new things. Like, what
Hmm.
does it do to you?
I think for me, um, one good thing about like trying different things is it keeps the momentum going,
Okay.
right? And what I mean by momentum is, let's say, if I'm using only one pipeline or one
Mhm.
program for a while, I get easily bored.
Right.
There's
Okay.
no what do you say is like no enthusiasm, or
Right.
you
Okay.
you feel like you stagnated, right? Like let's say if
Hmm.
you're using Blender for like 6 months to 1 year or something, right?
Hmm.
Like you've been using the same pattern again and again, and it's get bored, because like we as an artist, we need that variety. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
So, right, like if anything is flat, it's boring. Right.
Right.
It's
Right.
same like music, right? We need to constantly have that change, and like that's how you create the rhythm. And the same
I
thing.
think artists find a lot more progress and they evolve a lot more when they go this route, because I'm pretty sure there are also artists who like to, perfect the same skill more and more where they achieve mastery in one thing.
Yeah.
But I guess you see a lot of unique changes within you in your thought process when you try out different things. Whether it doesn't even have to involve doing art, it's about listening to new kinds of music or reading new
Yeah.
books. Whether they
Yeah.
don't even have to be self-improvement books, they could be about biology or geopolitics. It just adds something new and suddenly it shifts your thinking process a little bit, which is why I find the fact that you said that you like doing new things. I was thinking like what kind of an impact it has in you, where you're saying that doing something new is opening something in your brain
Yeah,
which
because
helps
it's
you
like it
resolve
breaks that
some.
momentum, right? Let's
Right.
say
Right.
you'll be doing, because at least for me, I get easily bored if I just do the same thing again and again.
Right,
And
right.
and to keep, people call it as like an art block, right? So I'm not sure what to do now. And for me to break that, I just experiment, right?
Okay.
I didn't worry about failing, right? End of the day, what is the one thing that can happen, right? Like
Right,
why you're worrying about failing? If you so this comes to a core part. It's all about identity,
right. Okay.
right? Who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, more than like a designation, it's all about, for me, it's like I want to be an artist first,
Right.
who loves to draw every day.
Okay.
So I try to compare that with the sports. Like if you're on a Usain Bolt, uh, who doesn't like go and run on that particular race day, he keeps on running every day. Then that
Right.
becomes like a next another day who just like goes and run,
Right.
right? So
Interesting.
same thing like an artist, right? Like if I'm an artist, what is the identity I want to create? And I love to paint, draw. I don't care if it looks good or not. So that's why I'm doing like all these like daily sketches. Like it's like completely different subject matter every day. Like one week I'll be doing something, and another week like something sparks me an idea or that interests me, like
Right.
in a micro level, basically subject matter, right? So then one week I'll be trying out like ink pen, then I'll be like going with like pencil and sketches. Like then again, like let's say I went for a travel last week, and like that momentum was like right now is broke. I didn't like start the my traditional sketches. It's been like
Right.
1 week right now, and but I'm not worried about that. It's okay. It's okay. Now for me that inner feeling, like now I want to like try to learn something new right now.
Right.
All right. So it's on and off, on and off. There's no set of rules that you need to follow every time. So
Right.
find the pattern that works for you and just enjoy that process, right? It's all about the process, not the end goal. And it's, for me, one thing leads to another thing, and one area will like gives me so much amount of information, while other areas may not like give me, right? Like let's say when I'm doing ink sketches, I may not find like new let's say new methodology or new workflow or something, right? I didn't like love that process. Maybe like when I played with pencil, like, oh, that sparks me an idea, right? Like started going back to the foundation, improving on that one area right now. And yeah, it's like, let's say, what is the resistance to jump between medium is because that I think I would say is fear of failure, or like or maybe we think like what others might think,
Right.
right? That's the problem of like trying new things for many people, is they stick to the same old routine, same old techniques, and same old pipeline, everything. They stick to it because they are in a comfort zone.
Right.
They're
Right.
inside the box, they're not letting it go, right? So I was thinking, even I'm trying to reduce the friction over here. Like I was not consistent in posting in an Instagram. Then I thought like, okay, instead of like a new post, I just like capture a picture, put it in a story. That's it. Done. Move on. That friction is reduced, right? Like in order to post, I need to like do a hashtags and stuff, and like that taking me 5-10 minutes. I'm not like consistent in posting. Instead
That's
of that, like
interesting. Okay.
right, like take a photo and put it in story. Boom, move on, right?
Right.
So
Right.
so that's my goal. Whenever I'm not doing something which I need to do, what is the one way that I can reduce the friction? All right. So it's a simple step. Once you get into the flow, get into the habit, you don't need to worry about like doing a post or something, because now you're just like taking that time. Even you don't worry about 15 minutes, right?
Right.
So because it's all about entering into that flow is the hardest thing,
Right.
right?
Right.
So many people give up easily. I also did that in the past. I also do it right now too. Like sometimes I give up on, like, let's say I'll be working on a project for 6 months, then suddenly that will be on hold for another 3-4 months,
Right.
right? Then I ask this question, okay, I don't want to stress out, right? So I just want to be an artist who just have fun in drawing, fun in experimenting, and like never worry about like how many likes I get, like how many comments I get, and like appreciation and all those stuff. End of the day, if I can do something that for myself, I'm the happiest person. And let's say even like I do that in class. Sometimes my class goes for 6 hours,
Right.
right? So because I love teaching, and I love talking with people, and I don't like go and check the timing. Okay, 2 hours. Okay, that's the thing you paid for. I'm going to stop the class.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, everything is in, I would see in that perspective, right? Like and entering into that flow and like doing whatever you really like, and let's say if you need to take a break for 3 months, yeah, do that, no worries. Right. So, and again, this is at least my current thought process. It may or may not change in future, but I'm trying to keep it organic. I'm not like trying to restrict, or I'm not trying to follow anyone's path. And
Right.
because if I follow someone's path, and like it may or may not work. All right. I have like done that in the past, but it's not working out for me. So that's why I'm keep going back to the identity. Who am I and what I want to do? And yeah, do that. So don't try to think what others are thinking or expecting out of you.
Right. It's
Yeah.
interesting how, like, when you think about art and when you think about athletes, there's so many similar traits that they have. It's, the daily mileage building, taking things easy, like so that you don't hurt yourself in the process. You work and then you rest and recover. So like when you speak about these things, it also feels like you're really running this athlete sort of a mindset when it comes to work. You want life to be free flowing, but also systems have to be set in to
Yeah.
set you up for success at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
I still go back to this one thing where, let's say I set a goal 5 years back or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it eventually happened in the fifth year and
Mm-hmm.
before 10 days or something like that. Let's
Right.
say I want to achieve this goal by end of 2022, which I set 5 years back. That means
Right.
2017 or something. And it happened on like 2022 December, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about that process, right? Sometimes we are not like waiting for patience to happen, right? Like
Right.
and so those are the learnings I'm taking. Let's say, okay, no worries, if it's not happening now, it may happen in future. and
Mm-hmm.
and and I feel like it's like a lifelong journey. So we just like correct on a daily basis. Like if something is not working out, yeah, change it next day. And so why I'm comparing to the fitness mindset is basically where if you go to the gym and you can't go and lift 100 kg in first day, right? You just
Mm-hmm.
need to warm up, you just need to get into
Right.
the flow, and you need to like lift 2 kg weight. And maybe after like a couple of months of training, you can just move into that phase. So it's all about the phase, it's all about the progress, and it's all about the system you set, right? Let's say,
Mm-hmm.
what is a system? Is basically going to the gym itself is a system, right? You need to have a system. You
Right.
need to wake up early, or like let's say if you have a time, and you just
Mm-hmm.
everything you need to flow into the next other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if one thing affects my morning, and I can't get into that flow, then I
Right.
can't do that personal sketch, and that will be affecting my professional thing,
Right.
and that will be affecting my family stuff. So
They
that's
keep
why,
on adding up one after the other.
yeah. Then end of the day, if we reflect what we did, is like we did nothing.
Right. Right.
And that's why if something even off for me in my professional work, I feel that it's like I've accomplished something in my personal work.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that I'm not like too worried about like what happens in my other areas of life. All right. So let's say I can't get into the mindset of working when my family life is bad. All right. My
That's true.
relationship is bad, and I can't do the creative work. I can't even sit and draw. So everything
Right.
need to be in a pace where I can sit and relax and draw and enjoy the process. So that's why all these micro things really matters the most. And that's what we're seeing as a bigger picture, right?
Right.
So these are tiny things that you need to perfect in your life, and that's what I'm trying to do for the last 8-10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say when I started out in 2011, I never know I would be teaching,
Right.
and I would be having a school, and like but it eventually happened.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's say I had a goal that I want to teach by 40 or something, and if I need to be a good teacher, I need to start now.
Right.
All right. So that like that 15 years of experience will like
Right.
help me to build that. And if I wait for the perfect moment, it never happens.
Who, according to
And
you, is, if you can define the role of a good teacher or a good mentor, because you are, and like you're kind
yeah,
of the embodiment of a good teacher based on all the people who have taken your classes. Some of our mutual friends have taken your courses,
yeah,
and we know that you teach very well and you have a very good communication. So if you could define the role of a teacher for you, like, what would
That's
that
a true
be?
thing for me. For me, a good teacher is about like let's say um let's say you're taking someone's class or like you're studying with mentor,
Mm-hmm.
right? The mentor should be willing to give as much as possible to the
Right.
students, right? Like all the experience, knowledge, and it's not about like, for me, more than that particular area of skill set that I'm teaching. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sharing every information that made me where I'm today.
Right.
So that's the thing. You need to be open and just give everything to the student or like the community, and let's say because we might have come across a certain journey, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when other people are also in the journey, so start willing to help, no matter,
Right.
because like 10 years back, when I started out, like I didn't have like a proper education and like
Right.
no guidance and stuff, and maybe certain people who helped me in my journey, right? Even if it is like a very very small help, like maybe they might be sending me a certain website link to study, that's it, they didn't do
Mm-hmm.
anything. Even that small
Right.
thing really matters, because if that not happened today, I'm not sure whether I would like doing this podcast over here, right?
Right.
So
Right.
so you need to be like grateful about that, so you need to keep reminding about those instances. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
uh, um characteristics and thing we need to take and give it back. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing for teacher, right? It's not about like teaching, it's not about the skills, knowledge, and just that. It's just about like the entire things, and that's what I'm doing in my class. That's why people um some students say, they're like, man, is this classes looks good for me, because I'm trying to share everything as much as I can, be open
Right.
and like share your experience, how you overcome that situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like tell my students not to take my advice 100% because it's like it may or may not work, right? Your lifestyle
Right. Right.
circumstances changes, and I can't like ask you to do the same pattern. So
Right.
the pattern is never same for anyone. And willingness to help at any circumstance, because that's what I'm keep referring to, the timing, right? I
Right.
never look at the timing when the class will
Mm-hmm.
end, because you paid me for that,
Right.
right?
I mean, that's
If I
also a very unique thing to you, because I feel that, like, thinking about the classes that you take, the students, the kind of students who come and learn from you, a lot of them might be students who've been working in the industry, but a lot of them are like very new to the industry,
Yeah.
right? They don't have a workflow set up. They don't have a optimized daily schedule set up. So, what are the traits that you see in them currently, which you advise them to change, or at least advise them to consider on working
Yeah,
to
I think
around?
more than like I teach tools and techniques, I teach them to build the system,
Right, right,
right?
right.
What I mean by build the system is, let's say if they're doing any work, like I ask them to
Mm-hmm.
record their process,
Okay.
right? It's basically I do that thing in my personal work,
Mm-hmm.
and because let's say I might be solving some problems,
Right.
and if I encounter the same problem 6 months later, I have a process how I did that.
Mm.
All right. And like, let's say if you're learning from someone, try to document it,
Right.
right? Like, okay, so that like, let's say I have like a system that I built in Notion where, and if I need, let's say I like learn from some other artist, and I don't go to YouTube and like rewatch that. Like I have a
Right.
specific notes, I just like screenshot and just like few
Right.
writings, whatever I needed, and I just go to that system. So build that system, and once you build that system, everything will be in place. Let's say what you want to do for this entire week, and how you want to schedule your time, how you want to block your time, and
Right.
everything, put it out there in the system that you rely on. Either it can be digital system or it can be like a traditional pen and paper system, and that will bring them the confident. I always feel in order to improve in any area, any skill, it's the first thing is the confidence building,
Right. Right.
right? No matter about like, oh yeah, what is the lighting and like lighting anatomy and all those things, okay, those are the things we need to improve. But before that, I think we need to make them feel confident and comfortable,
Right.
right? Open to fail more. And
Right.
right, so when we show them like, see that, like this is how I did, like, this is how I came, and like what changes I made, and like you can see the progress.
Mm-hmm.
You need to show them, and like if they try to adapt to that mindset, I think that's when it starts to click for them. right? So I still remember a student where they were like very, very particular about one studio they want to get into, right? It's not happening for them. I said, why do you want to be very, very, very precise about that? Like, just improve your work, and somehow it will click. All right. So they just followed that progress, and they landed a job which is much better than the previous studio they expected.
Right.
Now they are really grateful that is like I didn't go and do the previous one.
Do you see some kind of, I mean, I wouldn't call it an issue or anything, but someone being very like dead set on getting a very specific kind of a job at a specific kind of studio, do you see that as a limit in someone? Because you're having to essentially narrow down your possibilities just to one thing. It could be great, like if you've grown up playing games or consuming the content from that specific studio, but when someone comes to you saying that I want to get a job at this specific studio,
It's okay. I would say it's okay, because like having a clarity is good, because if they enter into that, they'll be loving the job, right? Like not worried about like, okay, do I need to do a task tomorrow, right? They don't feel that, right? At least they have a passion towards something. And if they land over there, it's good. But my recommendation is like, sometimes it never happens in first go. So, right. So then you start something simple, then trying to adapt and adapt and adapt and move, and somehow you will make it, right? So let's say it may take 2 years or 3 years or even 10 years for someone to reach that level, right? Because it's sometimes in entertainment industry or for a specific role, it's hard because the other people who is working there might have like spent their entire life, and like you need to compete with them. And if you're just asking for that position, you need to work towards that.
And there's
Right.
also
Don't
like
expect
a lot of different parts to it. It's probably not just the work that you do, like the kind of decisions that they're taking from their end in terms of hiring you as an artist to work with them. There are a lot of moving parts. And it's not probably always about you not being their ideal kind of an artist. There are multiple things that's happening on their end that they can't go around. Like there's
it's
some level of bureaucracy
that's why
also involved.
Yeah, it's not we only think in one way, because if it is we did like a really good portfolio, we can get hired, right? It's not just that. It's like there's so much thing. And the other thing is, like as I said earlier, the patience is the thing that's like many students I see like they're lacking. And they want everything to be done like, okay, after this mentorship I need to have like amazing portfolio. All right. I said, man, it took me 10 years to reach where I am today, and like how can you just expect the same thing in 10 weeks? All right. So I'm only doing one thing in teaching, is like building them a confident. Right. So once you go out of this mentorship, you have a confident and to tackle problems.
Right. I feel like when you speak about confidence building, I think your approach, you can correct me if I'm wrong over here, you're trying to build their confidence by setting up systems of organization for them, which, and when I speak of systems of organization, I mean at some level putting certain constraints to your time so that you can get the maximum out of a certain constraint of time, certain block of time. So which brings me to an idea, like what do you think about the role that restraints or like any kind of constraint that plays to a creative role, essentially your creative abilities? Do you think being very free flowing, having a lot of time to work on something is better, or putting yourself in a sort of block of time to get more of that? Like what works best for you? What do you think about that?
I think I can yeah, that's a really good question for me. Let's say if you're a beginner, right, you just need to have this the quantity approach rather than the quality approach, right? That's the issue we have right now, is like I need to make this particular piece like amazing, like comparing that with the other artist or someone, right? And but what I did that helped me to break that the stagnation is changing the mindset of quality to quantity. And that's why I started doing daily sketches, no matter how good it is. I never worried about failing. If something looks bad, okay, next day I'm going to do something new. And that quantity mindset really helped me. At some point, I can see the quality changes drastically. right? Let's say that the stuff that I've done in 10 hours might have taken me now in like 1 to 2 hours. Because I'm just trying to adapt. It's like, I think you might have heard this rule in photography, right? If I ask anyone to capture one picture only one time, and then I just ask the other another photographer who just need to take like hundreds of photos, like then he just like finding and failing and experimenting, and it's not about that perfect moment thing. And so that's a beginner mindset. Like then you're moving into the next level, right? And okay, now we reached a certain area. Now we need to change the mindset. Like now we need to change the mindset from quantity to quality, so that you can just don't want to do random stuff throughout the life, right? You need an order, right? That change the chaos into order. Now you can just be very strict about like, okay, that's my target, I need to go there, right? So then you're just working on the quality. Then let's say if this is a beginner, this is an intermediate, then there's a professional, right? Like let's say what is my mindset right now is growth mindset. No matter what level you reach, there's a room to improve. So that's the growth mindset as anyone who thinks they're good should have. If you don't have that mindset, I think you can easily get stagnated, because there is always someone who's behind you, just like will move forward you, right? And yeah.
No, I think that's interesting that you speak about the growth mindset, because it speaks to an ability that all human beings have, where a lot of us have believed that beyond a certain age we can't learn new things. We fall into patterns and we can't break out of patterns. But now research has come to a point where there's proven that the plastic nature of the brain stays throughout your life. It doesn't stop. There'll be some kind of cognitive limitations after a certain point, but your brain has forever the ability to be malleable and change based on experiences. So I believe what you're talking about in terms of having a quantitative approach to art at the beginning is setting yourself up to do more things, to kind of allow your brain to kind of change around, fail at certain things,
Let's say
find
when
like
I started out, I tried everything. Let's say character designs, creature design, make designs, and environment designs and stuff. But to find what that interests me more, right? And if you are being very strict, okay, I want to do just environments or characters or creatures, that is like limiting yourself, right? You're not trying and failing because you're afraid that like someone will like think it's not good, or like they will mock you and like all those things, right? So after years, I felt like, man, it's like if I keep going and doing this again and again, and somehow I may not even enter into the industry, right? So then that's when I thought, like, what is the one thing that interests me out of all the things that I experimented in like last 4 years? Then I picked the subject matter that interests me, which is environments and nature, and then I started to specialize. Then that took me at least 6 years to get to a decent level. Right. So in that 6 years, even though I just like, let's say before 3 or 4 years, right? Like I'm starting from scratch, a new perspective, right? Tackling everything in a new perspective. And let's say an example would be 2015 or 2016 to 2020. I completely scratch everything, start from basically scratch, right? Forget everything, whatever I learned before. Like now, the quantity approach starts, right? So like, let's say picking one area, right? If again, the same topic that I was discussing before, reducing the friction. Like if I need to compose the entire image, that is too much to consume for me as a one thing, right? So then I just break it down into chunks. Now I'm going to learn one segment for next 6 months or 3 months. Get better at that. Do thousands of drawings. Then at some point you feel you gain the confidence, then you stack another thing on top. So that eventually lead me to a point where it's like, oh my God, now I have done this. I need to break this thing and I need to move out, right? So let's say 2010 to 2020, after 10 years, now I feel like, okay, can I enter into different area? Branch out slowly. Maybe can I go back to creature designs, which I left out 6-7 years back? Now, whatever the knowledge and experience I have gathered throughout this year, now apply it in a new perspective.
Right.
Now I know if I do this pattern, it will work, because it automatically worked for environments if I did that, right? So,
Mhm.
and now I need to think in different perspective.
Right.
So it's like a lifelong experimentation and try and see if it works. If not, like move on. So that kind of a mindset, I think, really helps. So the other thing is like, yeah, everything these days, at least I have seen in students, is like, not every students, because like I even have a student who's like 40, 50 years of
Oh
age,
wow. Okay.
right? Like, so what they're doing right now is what I'm talking. So they have been specialized in the area for last 15, 20 years. Now
Mhm.
they need to branch out.
Is this someone who has been an artist throughout
Yeah,
life?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Who's like a really, really good artist, but he's good in a specific area, a
Okay.
specialized area, right? So then he need to branch out and see, if I learn environments, let's say that the artist that I'm talking, who's really good in characters, but he need to
Mhm.
like enter into this area, which is environments. If
Mhm.
what, like, he just need to ask this questions, like, why do I need to learn environments,
Mhm.
right? He can just sustain with like the existing knowledge he has, but
Right.
he has something to create. Let's say he want to build his own world, but his
Mhm.
knowledge is very limited to do that.
Right.
So that's when we go and pick the mentor and just learn from, right? So
Right.
he's just branching out, but he knows all the experience that he gathered over the years. He tried to apply that to the new area, right?
Mhm.
So that's why this comes to the fitness mindset, right? Like, if I need to get better at certain area, let's say if I'm doing like a hard surface design, and I would consider the same mindset like fitness. Like, say, if
Right.
I'm going into the gym, like I can't like lift 100 kg the same way.
Mhm.
I just need to study the daily objects that surrounds me and understand about the principle, and like expect another 2 to 3 years or to see some progress,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So that's the thing I need to keep before even I'm getting started. Like, don't expect everything to happen the next day or next month or something.
Right.
Just let it flow and just enjoy the process, and it eventually you see that, like, the moment where it clicked. But man, to be
Right.
frank, it literally clicked for me after 7 years or 8 years. That I
Hmm.
know, I felt that as like, man, now I start to understand the tutorials that I watched 6 7 years back, and like now I understand like how this works,
Right.
right?
And
Because
it's not 6 7 years of like doing few artworks one day in a week and then doing something next week. No, it's every single day you're trying to do bit by bit, trying to improve. Even the time that you spend not doing art, you're spending time investing into consuming other kinds of information, whether it's
yeah,
visual information through films or books or music or going and traveling. So it's constantly you're in that space, which is, I believe, is a part of the growth mindset because you're
yeah,
using everything that nature's supplying to you
yeah,
as a booster dose,
yeah.
essentially.
It's, let's say if you don't have an inspiration, right? Like, oh, what do I need to draw? Like,
Right.
let's say when I started out, my visual library is very limited, because
Mm-hmm.
me as a kid who loves to play outside, not watch
Mm-hmm.
movies or read books or something, right?
Right.
So I really love connecting with people, playing with people, just enjoying
Right.
outside. And now, so that also a downside for me, because when I entered into this entertainment industry, many people who said like, oh yeah, Star Wars and stuff, like I never even watched, right?
Right.
So then maybe let's say I never know about certain history or a culture, so my visual library is very, very limited.
But
Then,
doesn't that also help you in some way because now you won't be doing something that someone's going to expect out of you?
oh yeah, yeah, that's why I rely on abstraction. and
Right.
and 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 so now my only goal is to like consume as much as information as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always tell my students, before you paint, you just need to analyze, see
Right.
things, right? So on a daily basis, consume new information, right? And let's say if you're going for a walk and like maybe there's a leakage in the wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a new information, how does it work?
Right.
There's a rust on the pipe, like how does it look like? And that is the information that we translate into a game or a movie. and
Right.
and 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 those small things matters most. And let's say you don't need to go for, let's say, oh, I can't travel because I'm in a COVID, like a COVID situation, or maybe let's say I don't have a finance to do traveling, international traveling, and all those things, because these are excuse. Like, okay, you have an internet, you can do virtual tour. Right now, I just like
Right.
type Switzerland 4K. I can just do like a drone footage. I can just watch every information I want.
Right. Right.
Right. So and reduce the friction. Like if you can't travel right now, yeah, okay, no worries. Do this virtual tour because we are living in an internet world. Right.
Right.
So then even like let's say when I'm taking my dog for a walk, I try to consume new information, or let's I also have a routine that I set, like browsing internet for at least 30 minutes to 1 hour. And what I mean by that is like I just like choose particular subject matter maybe, and just like read about that and understand about that. So I created a project regarding World War II or World War basically, and my visual library is very limited. My information about that history is very limited. So what I did is like before even doing art, before doing even collecting reference, I went back and watched documentaries to understand about the history, what happened. And then after finishing that documentaries, like I felt inspired. Oh yeah, now I know now what kind of emotion I want to convey. All right.
Right. Right.
So and like that really influenced me when I'm creating artwork.
Right.
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 It's back and forth, because if you don't have that information, you can't draw. Right. And you can't draw everything from imagination, like out of that abstraction.
Right.
It's not possible. We need to conceive that information. We might have been seen that before. And let's say when you're making artwork, you might have seen the pattern that you'll be like doing same thing again and again, because
Right.
your visual library is limited, or like your information is limited. That's why you need to consume more information. So many students I told is because they keep on grinding, but they're not feeding some information.
Right.
Right.
But
So
what do you think? A lot of these students who are grinding and not being able to come up with something new, like what do you think? What's the barrier that they have to break through? Because you spoke about abstraction, and that's a concept that's not very well defined for a lot of people who are entering an art field. Because the moment you speak about something abstract, they think about modern art. But you're
um,
speaking of abstraction as a simplified statement in your
hmm.
work. Like
For me,
there's a
yeah.
spine to your image on which you build essentially.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
with
So basically,
yeah.
I'm using abstraction is sometimes. Also, there's two questions, right? So what is the
Mhm.
barrier? Is sometimes they only focus on like a specific tools, techniques. They watch a
Mhm.
tutorial from other artists and they just like replicate the same thing, and or they might be s- really good at certain area, but if we ask them to change the genre or something, they'll be struggling because they don't have an
Right.
experience. Even I have that same problem, right? Like let's say if
Mhm.
client asks me to do something new that I never done before, it would be really hard, right?
Right.
So then what I do first thing, consume that information, understand about that information, what I'm gonna do.
Right. Right.
Then you'll be having like an art director who's like, okay, if something is off, they'll be like, okay, this is what we are expecting. So
Right.
so the student problem about the barrier is basically they need to consume more even before grinding, see things,
Right.
right? So analyze things, watch things. Like let's say allocate a time of just, let's say when I watch movies, I do it in two
Mhm.
ways. One, like with family. One, just analyzing what is happening inside the frame as an
Right.
artist, right? If I just like watch a movie with my family and like analyzing, oh yeah, that lighting is really good, and that breaks
It can
that
get
momentum.
yeah. Right.
Yeah, that breaks that momentum, right? We need to just like enjoy that flow. Then I just have a time where, okay, when I watch that movie, some scenes might have like resonates with me.
Mhm.
Like then we are just breaking down and reverse engineering why it looks good to you. And this is where the problem that I had before, like many people said, is like we need to do a master studies, right?
Mhm.
But what I did is like I just made like a Xerox copy, right? Like one to one.
Mhm.
Then I felt
Right.
like really good because like I paint really good. But that's not
Mhm.
the thing. I'm not like thinking about what they are thinking.
Yeah, so it's not analysis at that point. It's basically okay. I was able to replicate pixels to another thing. I think I remember Anthony Jones had made a video at
About, yeah, study
one
to
point. Yeah,
concept, right? Yeah,
yeah. How do you do master copies? How do you study masters
because
essentially?
because let's say before Anthony released that video, right?
Right.
Like I was in a situation in 2011 or 2012. Like many
Mm-hmm.
people who I admire, when I reached out to them, like they said is like do master studies, because we don't have as much as resources as possible.
Right.
But they're not sure like how to do it. Even if they said how to do it, like I might not have that patience to go with the flow and the process. Let's say, yeah, you need to reverse engineer. Okay, how does Jamie Jones like paint that grass and like take that essence and apply that to your concept? And what is he doing in his concept? And like, well, that really looks good. And like what you're doing, like start to analyze, start to write. So what I did is I emphasized to my students is like I asked them to write more than drawing. I asked them to write more. Right. So I always have like, let's say, a pen and paper and next to me and just like doing scribbles like this, let's say something like that. So
interesting.
yeah, so it's all about like writing. So always have like a scrappy paper. You don't need like to buy like amazing sketchbook to do these notes and stuff. Whatever methodology or systems that works for you. I really love pen and paper when I'm writing because it's like it's really connecting to my brain. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. When I'm consuming information, I try to write a lot. That also works in personal life, right?
Of course.
So let's say I think people talk about journaling, right? So what I do is like I
was journaling right before we started the concept.
Yeah, it's basically brain dumping for me, right? So I do that even in the morning. So same like doing personal work in the morning, I also do this brain dumping. And that really helps me to get that clarify what I want to do now, what I want to do next, and how is it going. So I try to let it no structure at all. Like I'm not watching any tutorial for that. I'm just like writing what's in my brain and just like okay, now how am I doing, how am I performing, what is going wrong, asking all this question. This is what actually is like molding us to get better, that growth mindset. So all the systems, see, I'm not like only improving in one area of life, which is art. I'm improving on all the other areas of my life, which
So
actually kind of like,
level.
yeah, it's kind of helps me to get better, because like if one thing falls, like, you can easily fall. And right, like it's all, it's the foundation is all about foundation in every area of life, right? So if your relationship bad, it's like then it'd be falling, right? Like you can't get into that flow state, you can't draw anything. And if your financial thing is also bad, it's also going to affect you in some way, right? Let's say if your finance system is bad and you need to invest on a good computer, you can't do, right? Like there's a barrier over there. And set a system, build a system, like don't rely on like one way of income generating. And just like, so that like if one thing goes off, let's say I have like had projects in the past where I'd be receiving a mail on Monday morning saying that is the project is canceled or the studio got shut down. And then if I just rely on one source of income, then it's bad, right? So setting a system so you don't need to worry, and you don't need to worry about the worst case scenario. And yeah, I think those kind of a barrier, again, we can't always emphasize, we can't always expect everything to go smooth, right? Let's say a recent thing that happened is like, let's say I was going to get into the good state or getting back into the personal work. Suddenly my daughter got sick, and like that really helps me basically.
Of course.
Right. I can't draw, I can't get into that mindset. And then I said, like, what is the important thing right now? Right, prioritize on that area. Right. If it is health, so what I did is like I spent like 6 to 7 weeks, like made sure I need to get back that healthy lifestyle. Now it's good for me, it feels good for me. And so whenever something goes off, go and fix that, and like try to improve on that area. Then just don't go back to the old habits or old state. So try to keep that into that flow, right? You don't need, okay, let's say if you're following a healthy routine habits of eating, then and once you achieve your goal, the problem with many people is like once they achieve their goal, they stop that. Right. So okay, their goal might be finishing 10 artwork or like a project. Then they don't do any work for next 6 months. All right. So consistency is all about the daily progress, right? Okay, once you finish this, like do on to something else. Like it doesn't need to be the same kind of a project. This is where I like try to have like a different kind of a goal system where I can jump between to keep the momentum going. Like let's say I have a short-term goal, a midterm goal, and a long-term goal. Short-term goal is all about like experimenting and failing, and a midterm is all about refining and like making beautiful things, and like long-term is all about like doing something for myself. I don't need to worry about anything. And So when you have like a system like that, it's like it's easy to keep the momentum going.
I think
And
most New Year resolutions break because of this very reason, because I think the actions are taken at the face value. Like the action is not means to a bigger goal that you're setting, but the action is itself the goal. So if
yeah,
someone,
it's that's the thing. It's like the goal is basically a destination,
right,
right?
right,
But if I compare it with like other example is, um let's say you want to like travel from a destination A to destination B.
mhm,
You can't get into any kind of like a wrong transportation buses or something, right? Like you need to get
mhm,
into the right buses. So that's where the goal is really helping us. Like let's say
right,
the goal is all about like okay, I need to like finish my project, an IP or a book. Then the system is all about like, okay, did I did my first concept for that book,
right,
and then break it down into chunks. Like, did I started exploring that idea? Did I started gathering
mhm,
reference? So it's like it's going as small as possible. Then I just like finish one thing at a time. So somehow it will reach to there. Let's say
mhm,
many people have like a financial goal, like, oh, I want to have like a 1 crore rupees in my bank or like
right,
$100,000 in my bank, but they never build a system to reach there.
right, right,
All right. So it's the same thing in like fitness. Like it's always about like I need to get a six pack, but like no, it's build a healthy lifestyle. You all
mhm,
automatically reach there, right? So this perspective I'm trying to apply in every area of life. Again, I'm being open here. I'm not perfect, as I said earlier, right?
mhm,
Like I may be not working out for 5 days or something. Then suddenly that self-reflection, the brain dump
right,
really gets me back on track,
right,
right?
right.
That I can't be perfect. That's why it's like leave that perfectionism mindset in every aspects of life. You'll be good. That's my only one
Hmm.
advice, right? Any student,
Define
yeah.
the perfectionism mindset, because when you hear the term someone's a perfectionist, it doesn't sound like a bad thing, but it becomes quite of a drawback on you person if if you have a perfectionist personality. So
See, perfectionist is not about like, let's say, keeping things clean or like keeping things in order or something like that,
right,
because like we always think they are the one who is perfectionist, right? Like we
right,
think like, oh yeah, I can't do that, like I can't keep my cupboard clean or like
right,
very order, right? So what I'm saying is, in order to achieve something, don't wait for the perfect moment, and
mhm,
also don't think that it's like you can achieve everything at one go. All
right,
right.
right,
So maybe what you think is perfect right now, maybe in
right,
few years it may not be good, right? Like let's say same thing in
exactly,
art, right? Like let's say I think it happened to me when I started out my career, right?
right,
That's when I think art station was booming, and
mhm,
like I was really hesitate to post one artwork, because
right,
I was thinking if art station means it's a portfolio page, portfolio means perfectionism, perfect artwork.
right, to present the best self that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can.
right, right. So now, then my wife said is like, see, in order to reach there, you need to start somewhere, right? So,
Right, right.
right. So, and I can't like wait for that moment when I would be getting good to get to post art station, right? Like then
Mhm,
so that's the one thing that struck me for a long time. So I started posting on a daily basis. That's why I don't care what kind of a genre I'm exploring, what kind of a
mhm,
style I'm trying, and whether it's like whether if I done in 1 day or 2 days or like 1 week or something. I just posted
right,
everything. I didn't
right,
even started thinking like a portfolio page. And sometimes I can see that growth happening. My work quality kind of improves,
right.
and yeah, it's all about like now. Let's say I even have like a set of routines where every Sunday I need to post something in art
Mhm,
station.
right.
So, right, if I do one piece for that week, okay, post it. If I have like
Mhm,
a 5 piece, I need to like post it. I'll do it, and I don't worry about like whether that artwork looks good or not. All right. If
right.
Sunday comes, I need to post it. That's it. That's that's a deadline. So
Interesting.
you need to have a deadline,
Right,
right? The perfectionism is what that we mindset is like. People, they don't have a deadline,
right. I think
right? If
I think
I
the way professionalism sets us up for failure is that it's not trying to make things perfect. It's like I won't do anything unless it's a perfect thing. And in
Yeah,
that process, if for I think for artists it hurts us more, because how do you even define something perfect in art? I mean, it can be
yeah,
great, but then again, like, there's the perfect is a weird construct for an
yeah,
artist. You
yeah,
can't
yeah,
really
yeah, because
define anything as perfect over there.
yeah, that's why it's like it's a slow progress, right? It's like, as I said earlier, few years back, what I thought the piece was good is not good right now for me,
Right.
right? So, and if I was hesitated at that moment, I would like never done it, right? So I can keep telling myself that is like one day it will happen, one day I'll finish my book, one day I will just write it, and like one day I'll post this new artwork I've done. So people are waiting for that moment.
Right.
All right, so it never happens, and that's when I said is like uh ho- like I'm trying to reduce the friction as much as possible. All right,
Right.
so one example I would say is last few years I've been doing, which is if I'm posting my artwork, I will do it on Sunday, so by
Mhm.
around evening time or something. So whatever I've done that week, I try to upload that an entire
Right.
bunch. And and once the deadline is done, I need to move on to something else.
Right. Right.
Right? If I see flaws and mistake in that one artwork, I keep on noodling, then it's never going to get finished by itself, right? So you just need to change that mindset. And again, as I said earlier, if I need to keep the momentum going, I need to keep experimenting and failing,
Mm.
right? Otherwise, as an identity for me, and like I can easily get stagnated if I just like only doing one thing for a very long moment, right?
Mhm.
So that's why it's all about the process, and you keep experimenting and testing new things and see if it works. And let's say previously I had a goal where, okay, I need to make one artwork per week. That
Okay.
was too big goal for me, to be frank. With
All
that skill
right.
set I had, that was too big goal, but I somehow made it like one artwork every week I uploaded, and then that becomes like three artwork, that becomes five
Right.
artwork right now. So now I'm just reducing the friction. So if I would have said like I need to upload five artworks every week, I
Mhm.
I would have easily given up,
Yeah.
right? Reduce the friction.
It's
So
setting
okay,
up
if it
too
is,
big a goal for you at
yeah,
that
yeah,
point, right?
yeah. And the another problem is, um, all these small goals are okay, but if none of these goals taking you to the long term goals, it's useless. You're only
Right.
doing random things,
Right. Right.
right? So that's why the system and the practice that you are doing should take you to the main goal, right? Let's
Mm.
say I need to be teaching. I had a goal. I need to start teaching at the age of 40, right? The system is like I'm started right at the age of 25, and like it start going. And I also started with one student.
Right.
All right, now I have a bigger community, and it starts evolving. And like let's say, oh, I need to have like a 30 people that to start teaching, I need to have certain money because like I can't spend my time for this. So if
Mhm.
you think in that perspective, we can't even progress.
Right.
So right, like let's say if I would have started at the age of 40, maybe i I have experience and knowledge, but my health condition wouldn't give what I'm doing right
For
now,
sure. Yeah.
right? So that's why you need to get started immediately. And no matter how good it is or bad it is, let's say I still remember the first class I did with one of my student. It's like I
Mhm.
have every notes written in a paper. I was like seeing things like, oh yeah, what to teach next, what to teach next, right?
Right. Right.
So now I have like information and like all the past experience that really helped me to go into that flow, but I'm still improving. So if you
Mhm.
see what I've done in my previous mentorship, like what in my current mentorship is like completely changing. So what I can improve, right?
Mhm.
So if I would have spent, let's say, 5-10 hours with students, what I can do better now. Like you don't
Right.
need like another 20 hours or something. You can just do like a 1 hour extra or something like that, right?
Right.
Which is way better than the previous one. So it's just like one step at a time and a small incremental progress. It's what I'm trying to build in every aspects of my life. At least that's what I did. I could really see a good progress if I keep that
Mhm.
mindset. All right. So that's what I'm teaching people. More than art,
Mhm.
I'm teaching this mindset, right?
Right.
So they try to improve in every area of life, and they start to see the progress, and people also seeing that thing, right? Like
Mhm.
so it's not about the really, really amazing artwork they see in the internet. It's about all the system behind. Like if any artist you admire, and if you ask them, they have like a really good system, I would say.
Right.
All right. So any, not only artists, any people in the world, like who has you really admire, and they are in a good position, and they have a good system, I would tell.
Right.
And that's the system they spend their entire life improving.
Right. We just get to see it right now, but they've been doing the work behind the curtain for a long,
Yeah,
long time.
even you don't see the system, we only see the outcomes.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. So that's why, unless and until someone speaks and like explains the process, you never know how they made it. Right. People call it overnight success, but it's not that.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
with this whole podcast, like it's kind of become my motto at some level, where I think that art is kind of essentially the symptom for us. Like the way we think, like the final artwork that we make, that's not who we are, but merely just emblematic of how we think, how we perceive the world. Like your practices, your systems that you've set up, the way you think about life, the way you think about I feel like whenever I look at your work, it's abstract but also efficient, and that speaks to me about you enjoying this painterly, impressionistic, abstract side of art, but also you know that okay, I have to do these certain things to get a certain result out of it, and not
Yeah.
just like be
So
into this confusing space, creative space constantly.
yeah, let's
Right.
say one example I would give is like I never had any goal to enter into certain studios.
Right.
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 I never had any of those goals. Oh, I need to have like that client to be working. I want to like get into this project, and like I want to be like him or not. I never had that. I
Right.
just like thought like, what is my identity as an artist? I want to paint every day. I'm doing that now.
Right.
So everything falls in place right now. Right. So let's say many people do fan art. I never done any fan art to get into the studio. Right.
Right.
So, and even till now, I'm doing that something that resonates with me, and I'm just like putting as an art outside that expression, that feeling and emotion I want to convey. And maybe certain times I might be obsessed with like a darkness, right?
Right.
So, and my art resonates that, and I just like express that through art. And like sometimes I really love nature and the freshness. Right, my
Right.
recent artwork has like a lot of foliage and like waterfalls and stuff. Maybe that's the
Right.
thing that I experienced recently, and I'm getting into that emotion, and like I'm conveying through art basically. And I never think like, oh yeah, what is the project I want to do, that specific title so that I can get into that studio. I never think like that, at
Right.
least for me. And throughout my career, and I never had that kind of a goals.
Right. Right.
And maybe it somehow it worked for me.
Uh-huh.
And I can't complain if someone have like a clear clarity of like they need to work for like this studio, this project. Yeah, I highly appreciate them if they have a clarity like that. For me, it's all about like who am I, what I want to do, and what I want to express. And yeah, and I think that's the main thing I'm doing. And it's all about trial and error, right? If I be too restricted myself, I don't enjoy sometimes.
Right.
If I build a
Right.
portfolio just for the job, and I easily give up.
Yeah, because you're essentially just hitting like check boxes at that point in terms
Yeah.
of getting something. You
Yeah,
don't
so
get
that
much.
the way it works for me, at least, I do something that I enjoy. I don't care what other people think or like what other people expects. I put that content out there, and the
Right.
studio that they think is like I could fit for their project approaching me. All right. So if both the things aligns, you will be enjoying that process.
Right. Right.
Because like let's say when I put like a project that is related to World War II, and maybe the emotion I conveyed through that artwork is like maybe appreciated by other people who wants to hire me, right? Because their project also fits into the same world. Now when I got hired, I'll be happy to work on that because it doesn't feel like I'm working on a day job or something, right? Because I'm doing same kind of a world which I've been recently explored, that's been obsessed. So and that's the enjoyment processes. But like you will fail even in that. That's part of the job.
Of course.
But somehow I'm doing something, uh the things that I want to do, right? Like let's say drawing, right? I'm making living out of that. Then I'm
Right.
happy. I'm not doing something random and working in a hotel or something, right? And making the bills or something. So yeah, I would think in that perspective. So do whatever you want and let the rest take care of itself.
Right. I also like the fact that you speak about failure, because I think even on a professional job, failing at a certain task is actually very important to the process itself, because uh, it helps the team understand what they don't want in the project. Because at times you'll get a brief which is very blue sky, and a lot of artists are working together. You'll see a lot of you working on multiple variations of the certain things, and then
Yeah.
certain people, their work only serves to show that this is exactly what they don't want, and that doesn't make the art obsolete. It's just actually heading you in a more correct direction, right?
Yeah, because I still remember like a moment in a recent project, I spent 1 month to get that one artwork approved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Like it took me like, let's say 30, 40 images of failures to see what is it, like what is the
Right.
director wants. Or like, because no one knows, because if it's like a new IP or like, let's say, not everyone have the clear picture in their mind. They are still
Mm-hmm.
experimenting and like testing things out and like what
Right.
would work. And that's why we need to rely on the process, right,
Mm-hmm.
not on the outcomes. And it sometimes it never happens, but all the stuff that you did in that 40 artwork or 30 artwork is like you're figuring out like what is not working, so you're changing that and like trying to adapt.
Right.
And again, this is not a case, because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we get a task and which is client is very very particular about everything that we make in that piece,
Right.
so they have a clarity, then easy to do it, like that might take only
Mm.
2 to 3 days.
Right.
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 So that's why we have like a different stages in the production, pre-production, then like production, and like sometimes we do like, let's say, go back and change the things what we did earlier.
Mm.
So yeah, I think for me, main thing about like that process is all about like being flexible and keeping it organic and enjoying that process, rather than like limiting yourself, saying that like, okay, this is the goal, this is where I want to head. And once they reach there, I think they'll be stagnated. I've seen many people in my experience where
Mm.
they feel comfortable at a certain position, they don't even grow, right?
Right. Right.
And if something comes, let's say you're working in a studio and you don't even update your portfolio for like 3 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and industry changes, you're only being used certain tools in that particular studio, then
Right.
suddenly what if that studio got shut down and like you don't have
Right.
anything to show to get even into other studios? So that's why the
Right.
personal work or like keeping updated to the market is really really important,
And the market
right?
updates itself very quickly. I
Yeah.
remember, like at the very beginning, like now I have the fortune of working on live action projects, but at a time when I was working on casual gaming work, and then I left that studio, and then there was this brief period where I was considering going back to the casual gaming sphere, but then my portfolio back then has already become obsolete within a year or something. And I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
not even think of it that way, that things catch up quickly, because I think when the whole crypto space started coming in, the concept of metaverse started coming in, the look and the refinement levels of casual gaming assets, they change suddenly, So whatever work I've done for the last 3 years, completely, like they're completely unhireable work at this point, which
Yeah,
is very interesting
even
how quickly it progresses,
yeah,
it evolves.
even sometimes, right, let's say when I working in a professional environment, there was like a 2 to 3 project consecutive project which got like shut down, and I have nothing to show,
Right.
right? So that's why I rely on my own work.
Right.
And why do I need to create personal work? Why do I need that spend that extra time every day, 2 to 3 hours? It's because of this one reason, right? Like I can
Right.
just go and enjoy, watch movies, right, play games. And if I do that, if these kind of circumstance I can't tackle,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all right, and then yeah, everything will fall at that
Right.
moment, every aspects of the life will fall. So that's why and again, it goes back to the identity, because I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy doing something for me, for
Mm-hmm.
myself, more than like working for someone. And I really love that process, because it takes me back to that me as a kid who loves to draw, all right,
Right.
because we didn't have any of these constraints back then. We take a
Right.
crayon, pencil, paper and draw. And like that period is what I'm trying to get every day, And if I
Right.
could have that kind of a moments throughout my life, and I'm really happy. And
Mm-hmm.
right, like I don't want any of those constraints that keeps me not doing or enjoying the art, right? Because
Right.
these days, like that has been determined by how much comments you get, how much like you get, how much appreciations you get, and based on that, we rely on those appreciation. I've seen like amazing artists who's not there in social media platforms. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
amazing artists uh, um, who gets like
Built.
only 10, 15 likes. That's
Right.
it. They don't, because for them it's for inner self, right?
Right.
And that's what I always like go for. And no designation, no this project, film, games, I don't worry about those things. What is the thing that I really want to do
Mm.
on a daily basis as an artist? And what is like, let's say, what is the like, let's say an athlete do, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he's a cricketer, he plays cricket,
Right.
right? If he's a writer, he writes every day. If
Right.
I'm an artist, I need to draw. That's it. All right.
Right.
No matter
Right.
what medium, tools, what brushes I use and stuff. No, I don't worry about that.
Mm.
And I want to create that identity, and that's what I'm striving for basically. And
That's
that's my end
interesting.
goal. And that's my end goal. And I don't have any goal like, oh, I want to work for this studio or that studio. It's my goal is like, I want to do what I'm doing right now and just keep that going.
I think the studios like once you have that mindset, I think the studios become kind of a byproduct of
Yeah.
your bigger goal, right? Like
Yeah.
it comes within, and even if you don't get a specific studio job, it's fine. I think all of like your work has a very specific aesthetic which will resonate with specific art directors for a certain project. That doesn't mean that you're a bad artist for some other
Yeah.
project. It's just like it doesn't fit for that project.
Yeah, I also like tell this to my students where it's like, you're not bad, you're amazing artists, right? Like go back to that child moments, right? Like
Right.
that enthusiasm is what is you are missing right now.
Right.
You are constrained by like so much things that is throwing at you, right? Like I need to get into the studio, I need to build this financial wealth, I need to
I
get
also
married.
feel
Yeah.
like Satish, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the social media aspect is what brings this fear that we are not good enough because they will see certain, like at least the concept design side of social media posts. Certain people get a lot more, engagement from their audiences, whereas someone who has a very similar artwork will probably not get that, and immediately they start thinking that their art is not great, whereas it's probably not that case at all. Like it's probably the algorithm who's running things completely,
Yeah, yeah.
and it has nothing to do with the quality of the
Yeah,
artwork.
let's say, yeah, I've seen that too. Like let's say I might be having certain followers, and like I might be getting like 2K likes or 1K
Mhm.
likes. Like if I being consistent in posting in internet, then suddenly if I
Right.
just drop out for 6 months and I post, I'll get only like 200 likes or something.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it's like I'm a bad. That doesn't mean it's like everything goes out or something. It's basically, maybe it's algorithm.
Right.
And as you mentioned, right, like, so I don't want to worry about those things.
Right.
um like let's say even many artists, they don't have any kind of a social presence or online presence,
Mhm.
right? and
Right.
and no matter how technology changes, they keep
Mhm.
doing what they really love doing, right? Like, see,
Right.
traditional media did not fall even though digital media came.
Right. Of course.
Right. And there are still amazing professionals who do oil paintings, like charcoal drawings and stuff. They have their own market,
Right.
right? That's what I'm thinking. I want to do what I really like. I build my surroundings, and I can just fit into that world, right?
Hmm.
So I don't need to like worry about like I can't get into that. Like the technology is changing, AI is
Right.
coming. Like we don't need to talk about AI, but like let's say um, people fear about all these new technology things, but
Hmm.
like no, don't worry. Like think about that identity, who want to be, and like so let's say I'm keep going back to this daily stuff is because uh, um, I always like reflect end of the day what I did for myself, right?
Right. Right.
So, and even if it is like something 30 minutes or something, and why am I like trying to keep updating to new softwares and technologies? Because I see that as like kids play with Lego pieces.
Right. Right.
All right. If you just only get one pieces, it will be boring, right? You just need to
Hmm.
have like so much thing, and you can just start like arranging things, and like
Right.
kid doesn't worry about like making a perfect shape.
Right.
They only
Absolutely.
like stacking, like how much they can build. That's what they look out. Like they never think like I want like a perfect thing, like I built
Right.
like a pirate ship or something. They never worry for those
A
details.
sense of wonder with just doing things, right? You don't have to
Yeah,
worry
yeah,
about the outcome too much. It's just like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I just
And
get to
like,
do this.
yeah, so now when I think in that perspective, I keep experimenting with new tools, and that gives me joy. And
Mhm.
that also, it's not just the joy I'm looking for, right? Like when I, like, let's say I experimented with the new tools, suddenly
Mhm.
my brain tells us like, okay, what if I combine these two programs,
Mhm.
and the outcome is completely new that I've done before,
Right.
right? So now, okay, that leads to me like, how can I turn this product into like a passive income?
Right. Right.
Right, so one thing leads to another thing. So if you want to have that kind of a process, you need to experiment.
Of course.
And that's why I'm saying is like you need to try everything before you commit with one thing. And
Right.
so the more we experiment, like more enthusiastic we can be in the
Mhm.
process. All right, as I said earlier, if every toy looks at the same color, it's boring. We need to
Mhm.
have that variety in life.
Right. Right.
So that variety is what I think is really important in the process, and you try to get that variety somehow. Let's say, I would compare it even in the food analogy, right? Let's say
Mhm.
if you're eating every day the same food, whether that you would be boring, right? You get bored.
Mhm.
And that's why I try to experiment, and I try to play with it, and I try to make my own process, and I
Right.
try to sell that process. I bring that secondary income now, and I no need to worry even if my primary income failed right now.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so you see, one thing affects the other things, and if you try to keep that variety going and keep the rhythm going, so I think everything will be good. And let's say if you think in terms of financial side, you might have thought like earning like $300 uh, per month would be amazing 5 6 years back. And now
Right.
even if you're earning $3,000 from now, it's not enough for you.
Right. Right.
So yeah, like why does you then strive just for money? So you strive for every area, right?
Right.
So only not in finance. Like try to get better at work, try to get better at health, try to get better at like relationship. Then automatically this area will also starts to grow.
I think what you're
And
essentially talking about is wealth, not in terms of finances only, but wealth in terms of more wisdom towards approaching life, taking
yeah,
care of
yeah,
multiple facets of your life to keep yourself in the centered
yeah.
place.
I still remember this one moment in my life where when I drive towards money, it never
Huh.
came to me.
Right. If money
Right?
became the primary goal,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
takes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It never happened to me. And when I
Right.
let it go, and eventually it's happened. Let's
What do
say
you
you
mean
might
by
be
what do you mean by letting it go? Like,
let
what
it
do you
go.
mean by
It is
that?
like basically don't try to see like, oh yeah, let's say if you're working in a studio and like you're asking for a good hike and stuff, it's not
Right.
happening, and like don't complain about those things.
Right.
You make a process to bring that wealth,
Hmm.
right? So this kind of a mindset I didn't have before.
Right. But it's
So
interesting about money as well is that now I think we are at a time because there's so much information available at this point in terms of how to even generate wealth, how to make money. There are ways to earn money which don't take too much of your energy. But I think in from the artistic side of things, like having a very financially fulfilled life and being a creative at times get into this confusing place where like, okay, am I doing this for creative passions or I'm doing this for money? Becomes very confusing. But I feel like uh, money is something that probably frees us up more to do the creative work that we want to do, which is where having multiple streams of income, using
yeah,
your work, using your time to generate, whether it's passive income, like if you're sleeping and a product that you made is making money while you're not working on it, those things kind of play in. So like how has your relationship been with diversifying your income, your portfolio
yeah, I think,
essentially?
yeah, let's say, again, yeah, it's I would say in this perspective, right?
Mhm.
Like maybe a few years back, for me, 15,000 is more than enough to sustain a life, right?
Right.
And like and even if I earn like extra 5,000 rupees, I am the happiest person. right? And now, like, let's say I'm earning 1 lakh, and like maybe one is like, I'm not needed, I need to like strive for money. No, don't do that. So, and also know your capacity and know your limitation. Don't let's say, I hear people saying that is like, the more you earn, there is also again the more expenses comes, right? Let's
Of
say if
course.
you are, if you're earning 15,000, you're well living in that 15,000, and suddenly you're earning 1 lakh, and like your expenditure will be 80,000 to 90,000,
Yeah,
and try to
yeah.
live a life in a moderate way,
Right.
and so that you can
You
just
don't
balance
keep
things
on,
out.
upgrading your lifestyle
Yeah,
with
see,
your income.
and sometimes end of the day is like, money is just a number in your bank account,
Of course.
right? Like that's the thing, like
Right.
right? So this is where I need to reflect, that is like, why does I need keep grinding and working so much projects and just bringing so many wealth, and I'm not like enjoying the rest of the life, right?
Right. Right.
Like if you need to take a break for 2 years, like take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so you build a system wealth, and just then you have also, to bring that wealth back.
Right.
All right. So it's not just the money, it's about like rest of the areas. And yeah, definitely, when you build this active and passive income,
Mm-hmm.
and many things might be financially free for you, right? Like the
Right.
decisions that you might need to take, or let's say, you need to travel to some place, and you need
Right.
to experience that life, so which was not possible before, so you can do
Mm-hmm.
that right now. Let's say you can't afford to buy like a really good mobile, and which you can get it right now. So but to achieve that state, I think you need to do the work. So you need to do the
Of
work
course.
to reach there, and like maybe you need to, again, as I said earlier, it goes back to that process may state. It's like maybe you keep on experimenting, you find a solution, that solution can be turned into a money, and
Mm-hmm.
you sell that as a product that brings back the money, and without that experimentation, that money never would have come.
Right. Right. Very
Right.
true.
So if I need to release a tutorial, I need to like experiment that process for a very long time, then I can sell that as a product. Now that product becoming like a passive income for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So maybe let's say the years of experience that I gathered now turns into teaching. Now teaching becomes like a secondary source of income for me. But
Right.
end of the day, everything that we do will somehow, it's kind of like a life cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it helps in some way.
Of
So,
course.
and it's not just that you're doing for sake of doing. It will somehow will get back to you, or it's basically connecting the dots for me.
Right.
All right. The more time I'm investing on personal work, that leads to me to get better at trying new things and experimenting, failing. There's no constraints. Basically, why do people do personal work, right? Like
Right.
because there's no constraint
Of
saying
course.
like, oh yeah, you need to only do this because that's what we expect, and this is the
Mm-hmm.
time you need to do it. And but constraint is also good, because we need that constraint so that we don't go overboard, or this is where we see that productivity issues and
Also,
stuff.
constraints help you self-analyze better. In this
Yeah, yeah,
constraint, how much are you getting out of it?
yeah.
Like recently, I think I told you while we had a talk in the morning, I had a chance to interview Darko Markovic a few days back, and him and I, we got into conversation about gatekeepers of the industry, essentially art directors and schools and mentors, where you really get a chance to analyze your current level of expertise when it comes to a certain skill, whether it's
Hmm.
your designability and everything. And I feel with there was this whole NFT phase that just recently went, where everything became very decentralized. It took power away from these gatekeepers. It did not really affect the, like, it did not improve the quality of art, to be very honest. It became its own movement, but art just became a commodity at that point. Now, I don't remember, I mean, you can tell me, I don't remember that I saw you delving too much into this side of things like crypto and doing
Yeah,
stuff with
maybe
NFT.
let's say, yeah, maybe I might have started this that foundation app, or getting
Right,
an invite or something.
right,
Maybe max 10 days, I would say.
right, right.
That
So
rush
what
is
threw you
gone.
off of it? Like,
Yeah,
so
because
what
the
was it?
identity.
Right.
asking that question, do I need to do this? No, I don't want. And maybe people might be like earning like $50,000, $100,000 in a week or something. And again, as I said earlier, right, like money sometimes is just a number.
Of course, of course.
Right. And there are, I've seen people who just like lives with like very short amount of money. They're so happy. Happiness is different for like many people, right? So maybe when I dived into NFT and things, and like it doesn't resonate with me, or it's like it doesn't speak who am I, where am I heading towards, because other people have gone into that direction. I
It
shouldn't
almost
go
feels
into
like
that.
a step back, right?
Yeah, it's like a sheep, right? Like going in a crowd, like, okay, I'm going to follow that.
Right,
And
right.
knowing, not knowing that, like why you are going there, what is the purpose, and like what's your identity. You're not asking that question. When you ask that
Right.
questions, you get the clarity. All right, so you step back now. It's okay that you tried. If it's not for you, I also don't complain. The people who just doing that, if they enjoy it, yeah, definitely they need to do it.
Right,
Anything that you really enjoy, like don't ask for other permissions.
right,
Right. So as I said earlier, the advice also works the same. It Some things works for me, doesn't even work for you. Right. So sometimes, let's say, grinding on an everyday basis may work for me, and like it doesn't work for you, who was the individual, the identity, right? Maybe you want to spend on something else, the time is right. Let's say if I want to spend a day watching just movies, I don't regret or I don't feel guilty.
right.
So the way I structure my day sometimes is like, um, what is the urgent thing I want to do? Sometimes the joy that I want to experience in that particular day.
Right.
Sometimes, let's say, I have this habit whenever I'm watching a series or like movies, I don't do it like here and there. 1 or 2 days, I just spend the time, watch everything, then get back to art. Then I just don't even do movie watching for next 30 days or 50 days.
Right.
So, but I'm feel satisfied that like like gave 100% all my attention into that area. So I don't regret. Right. So that's why if I'm doing something, we need to give that 100% so that you don't
Of course.
feel regret in future or guilty that you're doing, because for some certain people what you're doing is like waste of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say if you're reading a book and you're just enjoying into that state, and suddenly I come and see you, man, like why you're not drawing. Right. And like for me, oh yeah, Ian is like spending time reading books is waste of time, he's not creating art. But you're consuming information that
Right.
somehow brings the knowledge and connects the
Right.
dots.
Right.
But
Right.
so that this is why each people's perspective is different, so you don't need to follow someone's advice or someone's routine or someone's thing. So try and see if it works. If not, try to adapt to your needs.
Right. Right.
Right. Even when yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, it's interesting that you said that, because I, even on a personal level, I started noticing, uh, as I've been designing more for projects. I have never done like a proper personal design project for myself. And recently I started kind of delving into a personal project where I was kind of trying to, find an amalgamation point between the whole Maori and the French Polynesian culture, and then Art Deco, to build do this world building project. And I realized that for me, in order to get into the swing of things, I'm not the kind of person who can draw constantly to get something great. I have to really fall in love with something. And that made me go into these incredible deep dives into understanding what their history has been like, watching a lot of their videos and documentaries about these cultural things that they do. They're very much in tune with like people from New Zealand and then Tahiti. They're very much in tune with nature and how they refer to water as the source of creation for themselves. And then they're so famous for their carving, like these wooden carvings, and what's the story behind those carvings, and what is the mindset behind artisans spending so much of their time building on those things started kind of taking me into these uh, directions where the design started coming on its own. I did not even have to try so much after
Yeah,
one.
because
It
like
became
all this
effortless after a
information that
point.
is, because all this information that you consumed kind of like
Right.
reflects back to your design.
Right.
Because that's why I'm going back to the stuff that I talked, the visual library. The more
Right.
information you consume, it's what it's going to reflect
Right.
in your art, right?
Right.
Like if you never drawn a house before, like you can't draw it, right?
Mhm.
So so that's why people use reference, right? Like why do
Right.
people use references? Because see, analyze things, take things and put that into their designs.
Mhm. Mhm.
And yeah, I think it's all about like seeing things
Mhm.
and consuming things on a consistent basis, no matter what the circumstances you are in. Like you can't travel, don't worry, do it in like
Right.
internet research. Like if you
Right.
can't go to like afford like to watch subscriptions, like yeah, there are books to read. Like let's say 10 years
Mhm.
back there's no Netflix subscriptions, right?
Right.
So right, like then so don't give an excuse and like start consuming
Mhm.
information and like try to put that into a routine too, right?
Right.
So let's say, as I said earlier, I have a routine like 30 minutes to 1 hour or something where daily consume thing where I never seen something. Let's say I might travel to Morocco and like look
Right.
at things in Morocco and a virtual
Right.
tour I do. And like I just play that in my second or third monitor that keeps running. And I just like, if something grabs my attention, I put that into my system. A system is like where the
Right.
collection of
Right.
inspiration is. And maybe that I just need to capture that idea. It's called brain dumping, right? You
Mhm.
don't store that information in your brain. If you do
Right.
that, maybe like today you have one idea, tomorrow you'll have another idea,
Mhm.
right? This is where sometimes these ideas that you consume, and when you capture that and put that into systems, maybe that might also evolve into big projects you never know,
Of
right?
course. Of
So
course.
that can fill that gap, or that can connect the doubts, and you never know. It's the same thing like opportunities when you're working for a client. When maybe let's say you might have said no to a certain client,
Mhm.
but let's say I got a chance to work with some clients, and if I would have
Right.
and my life is completely turned in a different way I never imagined, right?
Mhm.
If that one situation where if I would have said no to that client, I'm not sure like how my life would have turned, right? So
Right. Right.
so that's why sometimes we need to follow with the gut feeling, and sometimes we need to rely on the process and like wait for that things to happen. And let's say a good example is I never got a chance to teach anywhere, right?
Mhm.
So I started my own school.
Right.
All right. So it's the same thing. It's like you can't wait for the perfect moment to happen. And like I'm
Mhm.
happy that I got a chance to teach at a school very late, even after I
Mhm.
started my own teaching. Um, teach like I taught at like CDW in Australia. Like I did a workshop with Brainstorm. Those are the
Mhm.
schools I admire to go in my early career, which never
Right.
happened to the
Right.
circumstance, right? Maybe financial crisis, or like let's say maybe yeah, that might be like many restrictions. and
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
but it felt very happy. It somehow connected the dot after 10 years,
Right. Right. Right.
right?
Right.
The school that I want to go and study now where I'm teaching.
Mm.
All right.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's the thing, that the process is not let's say the process is where I need to wait for that patience, right? Like some again, I didn't like
Didn't
force to do
plan
that.
this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I didn't plan that. It somehow
Right.
happened, right? That's how, man. It's like I think we may have realized these things where the more you obsessed on certain things, it somehow will get back to you,
Of course. Of course.
right? So I've seen this in number of ways, in personal life, in professional life, in like this teaching too, right? Like let's say I felt really happy that like, man, I never imagined I would be talking with the people, or and the people that I admire. And
Right.
I even had a moment where I had an art director and who I admire. Somehow it's all connected, and like we are working, and like
Right.
it felt so good because all the time, all the sacrifice and everything that we did, and somehow it's kind of fulfilling, right? And but only thing is like it takes time, and it's like we
Of
need
course.
to wait for that moment to happen, and like don't expect everything to happen the next day. And um yeah, those are the things. So either, so only one thing I would say is like, let's say if something you think is not happening right now, just go for the plan B, right? If I can't go to travel to US and do like my studies, like take online classes,
Right.
right? So continue with that. Somehow you learned over there, right?
Right.
Maybe you might go to that school somehow, or you may be like going and working there somehow. And let's say if you can't like take a mentorship, which is like, let's say $1,000 or something, start with the Gumroad tutorial, which is $10, which is like reducing the friction concept right now,
Right.
right? I did the same thing. I can't afford those schools back then. I only got like Gumroad tutorials, right?
Right.
So now I can at least take those mentorship. I still remember those moments where when I was working in a studio, I saved my 3 months of salary to like take one mentorship. All
Right.
right. So yeah, so you need to find a way somehow, and you can't like try to, because I also see students when like they can't get some things, or they can't buy like a really good system, and they keep screaming, it's like I don't have anything, like they start to compromise, and they start to give reasons like why their work is not improving. It's because of
Right.
these circumstances.
Right.
All right. So, and let's say maybe like last year I might have one system which is like let's say $2,000. Now I might have like a $3,000 system, right?
Right.
So you can't tell people saying that's like, if I don't have a powerful machines, I can't just do artwork. And
True. True.
yeah, I think
I
yeah,
think the beautiful part about that is that you're basically setting up the concept of a long-term game rather
yeah,
than like
yeah,
focusing on just okay, like today's act should bring us a reward tomorrow itself. It
yeah,
might happen. There's a chance it might happen as well,
yeah,
but there's
yeah,
a good chance that what you're sowing will reap rewards 10 years down the line, as it did for you, right?
yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of
Like
the
it, let's say
overnight
certain.
success thing that we see, right? A lot of the like, and again, like this is where I feel like social media really underplays a lot of the efforts that people have put in for years, because you see the best versions in the end, which is what people get like connected with. But the
Mhm.
idea is like working towards that long-term goal rather than and setting up your day every single day to serve that 10-year
Let's say, yeah, you can just
outlook.
also like have that like, okay, whatever, where I want to be in 5 years, where I want to be in 3 years, what I want to
Right.
do. And you, yeah, it's okay to imagine, and it's nothing wrong if things don't go right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
then keep pushing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and let's say, man, it's somehow I have felt in my life last 10 years, somehow every dots is connecting step by step.
Of course,
Like,
of course.
let's say I need to have like a studio space that I really want to set up, right? Like it doesn't happen before. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
like renting like a space, a small space, and like co-staying with other guy, and I don't have the luxury of that, like a studio, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
now I can do that,
Right.
right, it takes time, and what you said is right, is basically you need to wait for that moment, have like a good clarity where you're heading towards, and work on a daily basis, and like let's say build a system. Again, I'm keep emphasizing on this one topic, which is building a system, because without the
Right.
system it's easy to collapse, or like lost track, right? Like because
Mm-hmm.
like you don't have the clarity, right? Let's say this is where the new year resolution fail, is because their clarity is vague, right?
Right. Right.
And let's say they set like high goals, and but
Mm-hmm.
they don't do that process, the progress on a daily basis to achieve that.
Right. Right.
And it's nothing wrong to set those goals, but like I would say that is like you build a system step by step to achieve that thing. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
if you want to like be that financial freedom, start investing, saving money on a like a small amount, right? Like let's say if you can like save like 5,000, 10,000 right now every month, it's good. Like you don't need to aim for that 1 lakh, right? When
Right.
when you increase your financial growth, then do that
Mm-hmm.
slightly, right? It's the same thing I would compare with, like if I need to wake up very early in the morning, and I
Mm-hmm.
have failed in this situation too. Let's say if I'm a person who is to wake up around 7 or 8,
Mm-hmm.
the next day if I set an alarm for 4 o'clock, I never wake up, right?
Right.
But if I just do that 10 minutes, let's say if I'm waking up by 8 o'clock, 7:30,
Mm-hmm.
7:45, it's easy reducing the
Right.
friction, right?
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's the same thing. don't, if you don't have energy to do like a 2 hours personal work, try to do it for 20 minutes.
Right. Right.
And I think these kind of a small changes, if you do, I think you can find that work life balance, financial freedom, and healthy lifestyle. And again, I'm saying I'm not there, no one will be there, because it's a lifelong improvements. And because let's say once we feel like, oh, I've done this, I've mastered this, then it'll be like around 70 or 80 in the age, and right. And that's what I'm realizing. It's even today, right now, is like, okay, at this stage I can't do so many things,
Of course.
right? There is always a lot of to-dos. Like even in our to-do list, right, we'll have 10 things, right?
Right.
So the way I just even like apply that is like, what is the one thing I want to do today? I never ask myself end of the day how much checklist I've ticked, right?
Right. Right.
Right. Like, what is the one thing today I want to do? If the today is like it's all about watching movies, yes. If it's about personal work, yes, personal work. If it's about client work, client work. If it's about like going out with family, yes, that's the one thing. and
Right.
and you keep doing that on a daily basis, and like, what is the one thing you want to do and for the rest of the day, this kind of a small thing. Again, maybe all this knowledge is, I'm not consuming through artists, I'm consuming through other professionals in different field. What is working for them, I'm trying to analyze their pattern, I'm trying to apply that to my field.
Right.
Right. So let's say if I need to get a financial freedom, I need to see who does this really well and take and learn from them, take courses. If it's needed, read about their books and their patterns and follow that. So that's why, more than art for me, it's about like, it's about balancing the other areas of the life. It gives that freedom, basically. As I said earlier, if I need to take
I agree.
break for 1 month, I can do that, because I
Right.
don't need to worry about financial thing, right? So go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Yeah. So basically, for me, the freedom is all about like, whatever you want to do, and there shouldn't be any kind of restriction, right? It's basically, if I want to do just personal artwork and live out of that, right? If you can do that, that's really good, right? Don't think like you always want to work, because I've seen artists who only do art for themselves and make a living. They're not working for AAA games or movies or like, so yeah. So don't set a boundary or a rules always just because other people are doing it, and set something for you that really resonates with you and speaks that about who you are and the identity I was talking about. So ask all these questions on a constant basis, right? Whenever you are making a big changes, changes in life, ask a lot of questions. All right. Write down your thoughts, ask questions. Let's say if you're making like, let's say I want to like move from studio to freelance, right? Ask question, what is the pros and cons if you want to stay in studio? What is the pros and cons if you want to do freelance? And there will always be sacrifices in both ends. And let's say maybe in freelance you don't have like a work for a couple of months, and like, you don't have money, so that's why you need to set a system to bring passive income, so that if one income stops, you can just live with the other income.
Sure.
Right. So that's why it's all trial and error, and experimenting in I don't only do experiments in art, I try to experiment in every aspect of life, right? So maybe one diet or one fitness thing doesn't work for me, then I try another thing, right? So I keep I so that's why I said about the Japanese lifestyle, right? So I really love that, because that resonates with me a lot, because yeah, they don't have that West or like the fitness culture, right? So, and the only thing they do is they move a lot. There's no obesity over there, because they just like walk to work and all those things. So then, okay, that's the best way I'm going to apply my fitness thing. No lifting, nothing.
I think I really like the part where you spoke about taking things easy, because I feel like a lot of these recently I took a course which was a 4-day course on something called transcendental meditation. And the it's a beautiful practice itself. Like I've been meditating for the past 1.5 years, and this is by far the simplest technique that I've learned. And the beauty about this process was that the mind's natural state, the natural state of our mind is to go towards happiness and peace. And the natural state of our body is to go towards activity. So the idea of taking things easy, keeping your mind, allowing your mind to go to the direction where it feels more bliss, more happiness, more contentment, allows your body to work better. So the more stresses that you take away, if you're putting too many, as we discussed, like I think I'm trying to basically round things up as to what we discussed about playing the long term game, setting constraints for creative outputs. Everything's like okay, there's always this balance that we need to play, and not to overhaul ourselves too much where we feel like we're sacrificing something or we are really burning ourselves in the process. But
Hmm.
the nature of our brain is to find peace and freedom, and that allows our body to act, be active
Yeah.
in that very direction.
Yeah, true, true. Actually, I 100% agree on that. And again, yeah, you need to understand all these things. See, this kind of information, if you don't go and like learn about those things,
Mm-hmm,
I think
mm-hmm.
you don't apply that right in your life, right? So
Right.
that's why don't try to focus on like one area of life. Try to,
Right.
like, let's say, mental health is also really important, physical health is also important. That's why sometimes people only focus on physical health, they don't even
Mm-hmm.
focus on mental health, right? Like they're burnt out easily. I also like had that in a recent time period where I
Okay.
consume like so much amount of client work, or like take more than what I want, or like
Mm-hmm.
let's say that I could consume, right?
Right.
So then like other aspects of the areas is also important to me, then I'm overstressing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then how do I solve it is like let it go. Like I don't want so much projects, I just like keep what is needed, and like so that I can give importance to other areas of life. And I can already see like if one area of life is like impacting me badly, then yeah, I need to fix that, right? So it's a constant, it's a constant analyzation and trying to improve. And like sometimes I read a lot of self-help books because
Mm-hmm.
as an identity, right? Like I really love
Mm-hmm.
self-help books. It's
Right.
just not for improving my life, because I really love that, because reading about
Right.
other people's life, how, what is their journey, how they
Mm-hmm.
overcome those situations, that kind of a content is what I like to consume
Right.
more than like reading novels and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think and all those things that I'm doing right now is because of like reading about people that I admire and their pattern understanding and reverse engineering how they do it, and like trying to apply that to my life. It starts to work for me,
Right.
right?
Of course.
So and when you're like trying and experimenting, as I said earlier, don't expect the results quick. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe let's say even we always try to do this, right? Like daily routines, we keep changing as we go, right? Every year we keep changing.
Right.
And so, but if you find out a pattern that is working for you, try to
Mm-hmm.
do it for a
I,
long time.
I think the pattern which you talked about, which works for you, is the growth mindset. It's like that one consistent ideology that you want to do things which help you, learn and unlearn from your experiences, helps you do multiple things, like which I think that's also what allows you to keep your daily schedules very organic. It's not to the point like scheduled so hardcore, like
Yeah,
it's
it's like it's
because
not
you want to
hardcore.
try something
Yeah.
else and see what you get from it, how to
Yeah.
remove certain parts of it and try something else later.
Yeah, let's say I have a routine for 30 days,
Hmm.
then I want to keep like change it. I want to experiment with some other thing, some other pattern. All right.
Hmm.
So recently I had a pattern where all my afternoon is just for doing management works and something.
Right.
And suddenly I thought like, okay, I don't want to interrupt the flow from morning to as much as I can go until evening. If I want to do it, like I can go with one consistent flow. I don't want to restrict saying that other people are doing this pattern. I don't
Hmm.
need to adapt it, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think these kind of small changes, if we focus on, would really help in the long run. And it's working out for me. And again, I always see it in this perspective. It's like a lifelong journey, and none of our journey is similar.
Absolutely,
None of our
absolutely.
journey is similar. We are on our own boat, lifeboat, and we keep traveling. And the while we are traveling, the people, if they are same minded and keep with us, and if not, and just move on and don't try to fit into other people's boxes. And
Right.
that's why I'm saying, keep going back to the same thing, which is the identity, and also me as an artist who loves to draw every day. That's what I'm doing,
Mhm.
and the people are appreciating sometimes, and I'm getting let's say a job or something, what I'm doing, because if I could do something that I'm passionate about, if I'm
Mhm.
getting a job and money and something related to that, I'm the happiest one, right? So,
Right, right.
and no matter how much money I earn, I'm still happy. Like 10 years back or like 5 years back, like I earned like 15,000, I was still so happy. And yeah, because I was complaining a lot of times before, and but as I mature, the perspective is changing,
Of
right? As I
course.
said earlier, don't chase towards that one thing,
Mhm.
and it never happens, it never reaches to you basically.
Right.
And when you let it go, and it eventually happens to you. That's what at least I analyzed in my life. And because I never had a goal like I need to have like a, okay, 100,000
Right.
dollar in my account, I had like $50,000 in my account. I never had that kind of thing. But it's okay to have like a financial, like, okay, in terms of financial freedom, instead of number, because once you
Mhm.
reach that number, some people will stop,
Of
right?
course.
So instead of that, what kind of a lifestyle you want to live, right? Like I don't want to
Even
punch
if they don't stop, I think the next goal becomes much higher. So you're constantly in this
chase,
phase
right?
of chase of not being happy with where you are, like not embracing your current state of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
present moment essentially.
Yeah, I still see. Let's say I can afford an iPhone. I can afford
Right.
a good phone. I still using like, let's say over 10,000 rupees phone or something like that,
Right.
right? So
Right.
it's I only use that money for where it's needed, instead of like
Right.
trying that materialistic properties. and
Right.
and and let's say maybe using that money to set up my studio space is
Mhm.
it's important for me, because that atmosphere will bring me more wealth.
Of course. Of course.
All right. So environment is really an important thing in life, to be frank. And if
Mhm.
you surrounded with like, let's say you want to improve a health lifestyle, right? And if you surround with junks all around, you only consume junks,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
If you have like a chaotic atmosphere when you're drawing or working, and you can't get into the zone, right?
Mhm.
So again, chaos means it's not like, okay, let's say I've seen like people with like so much things around their studio space, but
Right.
it's their meditative stage for them,
Right.
right? So
Right.
not cleanliness is like, I'm not saying it's like how minimalistic your room space is, like what
Right.
is the thing I'm conveying. It's all
I
about
feel a
like,
lot of people can get a little anxious of a very clean space because the moment certain things change, because as you're thinking, certain things would move around, shift on your desk, it can immediately, take you
yeah,
away
for
from
me,
that
yeah.
state.
Yeah, for me, it's all about like, let's say, what kind of a color space I want to be surrounded by, right? Like me and
Right.
my wife is all like always like strive for that earth and nature.
Hmm.
Like if we have a room that is designed with that kind of a color space, let's say you see that like a lot of like even if it's not like a real
Okay.
life plants, I want that
Right.
greeniness, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So and I want to have that like a white table or things, right? So that I
Hmm.
have that presence which gives me peace.
Right.
Right. So I have like a lot of like, let's say, foliage around me. So it's all about like the environment that gives me that vibe to get into that
Right.
flow. So this applies to the life too, right? Like when you surround with the same minded people, let's say, um, you have like a few friends who does like these daily sketches and like daily works that inspires you, then and that automatically forces you to get into the zone,
Right. Right.
right? Like when you have friends who always like wants to go out and like just go to party and like just watch movies and stuff, when you surround with that kind of environments, you
Hmm.
also tends to become like
Of
that,
course. Of
right?
course.
So that's why environment is also a key things to bring or help your habits and also improve your lifestyle. And Yeah, I think uh that's where I feel these kind of a small change in mindset really helps,
Mhm.
because it's a few years back I was still like I don't have like this kind of a studio space or something,
Right.
and yeah, something was off for me back then. But now
Right.
I need to have that space. I need to get invest in a good chair, invest in a good headphone, like so that when
Right.
I'm less listening. So this kind of investment is what I consider is important, right? Like sometimes the slight change in that, right? Let's say when I'm working, I should be not disturbed. So investing in a good headphone is also really important, right? So
Right. Right.
instead of buying in a different material, probably that doesn't fits your identity.
Mm-hmm.
So I always go back to the identity, like whatever you're buying, investing, everything should fit into your identity, and
Absolutely.
don't just do it just what other people are doing. Okay, if someone have an iPhone, I need to get that iPhone 14 Pro Max. So no, you don't need to, right? So, and my brother has an iPhone, my wife has an iPhone, but I'm still
Mm.
using that 10,000 rupees phone. It's enough for me,
Right.
right? So what my identity is, right, is always like I'm looking for, and if something is off, get back on track for me, right?
Right.
So
I
it's
think
okay.
this I think this is a good point to even conclude the conversation as to the idea that we should really. I think we have reached the time where we know how to be technically proficient as artists, creators, but I think the unique voice that we all have based on the experience that we've had till now, that sets us up for success more in life. Just, recognizing your strengths and weaknesses, seeing
Hmm.
what areas of your life where you can improve yourself, what are the parts of your life which, like, certain habits that you can let go of which would basically help you further in life. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it's the authentic self which really, sets you up for a much more fulfilling life experience, not just the art experience. I think, again, art is the symptom of a very, like, if like you look at someone's work and you immediately at least get an idea of how this person thinks, you know like, think about, like, artists from ages ago, like Francis Bacon. You could see his work, the kind of, like, aggression in his work, and tell you a little bit about the kind of mindset he was in. Or even if you look at Bakshinsky's work, it's very interesting how some of them can mimic a certain contrasting feature in their work,
Yeah.
whereas, like,
Yeah.
his work shows this horrific, like, grotesque,
Yeah.
like a horror element, but he himself was a very funny, humorous guy with a, like, a very interesting sense of
Yeah.
humor. So,
I also compare the one artist I really like is which is Pascal Campaign.
yep.
All right. So one thing, if I would say I learned something from him, is enjoy the simple thing around you.
Right, right.
Right? He does like a lot of like his family drawings and the
Mm-hmm.
moments, right? So he's not doing like any AAA games and like all this massive thing that we consider we need to head
Right.
towards, right? He always think like he is an artist. He expressed this emotion and through art, right? Like the things that he sees on a daily basis, he
Mm-hmm.
like experience basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Playing
Mm-hmm.
with his kids, those moments is what he's converting into like an art, right?
Right, right.
And I think that's why I keep going back to that identity, because like those are the artists why I admire. Because like, see,
Mm-hmm.
we admire a lot of people, but and like let's say I admire people who always being humble,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've seen many artists in my career where their positions they take to their heads, right? Like
Right,
they show their attitude, and
right.
but for me, those artists who keep their humbleness and like those experience and enjoy their life and being as an artist, no matter what happening around them, they always want to be an artist, right? So
Of
that's
course.
and I think I admire those people a lot more than
Yeah.
like people who does like amazing artwork,
Right.
it's all about that their identity. I always like see who is similar to me, and right,
Mm-hmm.
and in a different take. Sometimes for me, no matter what level I reach, I keep that
Mm-hmm.
humbleness. And
Of
let's say the artist like Pascal Company is like look through small things and enjoy the life, and so those are the things I just pick from those artists. It's not about their technique or process or like which drawing program you used or tools you used. I analyze the deep skeletal structure, and 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 um and I take those good things, and I try to apply
Right.
that to my lifestyle. And
Right.
if I write, if I, like let's say recently I had a conversation to talk with John Park, and
Mhm.
he's one of the amazing artists I admire, and um the humbleness he has,
Mhm.
so good. No matter how big the level he reach, he keeps that humbleness, and like those are the things I would say the takeaways for me, and apply that to my lifestyle. And okay, no matter how which level I reach, I also
Right.
should keep the same mindset and like same approach. And that's how you be respected in the society.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to apply that to my teaching. I'm trying to apply that to my family stuff. And that's a lot of things you can like also like learn from your families, mom, dad. And like my father used to say this a lot, where if certain things can be done quickly, get it done quickly, don't postpone it. All right. So but
It's
like
very interesting.
we call them perfectionist. All right.
Right.
Why you are perfect? Oh, you're running like a military. But the things that they are pointing out is, if you done that quickly, you don't need to go through the hassle. But we postpone those things, and like
Mhm.
then we may spend more time than what is required to get it done.
Right.
All right. That's the same mindset I try to do it in my work too. I'm trying.
Mhm.
See, they're not educated, but they are
Mhm.
also like doing some kind of a things we could learn from. All right.
Right.
So the learning is everywhere, and we need
Mhm.
to keep things open and trying to adapt. And if
Right.
some certain things are not working, try to be open and adapt and change.
Right.
And don't be a person who has that strict rule that, okay, this is my character, this is my nature, I don't
Mhm.
just want to follow those things, right?
Yeah.
So I keep the circle like that for me, so that
Mhm.
I stay healthy both mentally and physically, basically. And if my circle is really bad, that would easily translate into my thing too, right? So yeah, I think if I think you have any particular questions in mind to ask before we wrap this,
No,
or
no, I think you basically hit everything that I wanted to speak to you about, because as I said even today morning, I know that you and a lot of other people who are teaching and working in the industry, you are already taking care of the technical aspects of the work. And I'm someone who just loves to delve in conversation with someone. And I want this channel, this platform to be used to bring artists and just have a heart to heart conversation about how they think about life, essentially. And till now, all the conversations that I've had, they've all led to that direction. It has been rarely about the work that they do, like the kind of project that they worked on. I did not get into any project stuff. I'm
yeah,
like
because I think these
that's
are the
fine. Yeah.
information I feel these are the information is what is required for many people who is just starting out.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they could hear and listen, and like let's say even if that 1% they could try to adapt into their lifestyle, if it's
Mm-hmm.
changing, it will be really good. Because as I said earlier, in my life there's someone when I started out who sent me that one link
Right.
to study, right? I'm still grateful for that guy, because
Of
if that
course.
has never happened, I think I'm not sure where I would be in. Because that one thing
Mm-hmm.
leads to another thing, right? So and so yeah, because it's like that. Because like let's say if he would have been like, oh yeah, I shouldn't like send this link, otherwise he would be
Mm-hmm.
good enough to reach to a higher position, I shouldn't do that. So if he was like that, and I think not sure, because like that kind of a activity is what I always keep remembering, trying to apply that to
Right.
my life too. Because if someone is in struggle, try to help them as much possible. I even like, let's say, when people reach out to me Instagram or Facebook, I sometimes like give my uh, um, contact number, and then like I just like have a conversation with them. Like even when
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking my dog for a walk, okay, that's just like a mundane task, and like I just use
Right.
that time to talk with them for 30 minutes. And like if that 30 minutes conversation is like really helpful, and like might be a life changing thing in future, right? Like I'm not sure, because like the guy who helped me, not sure if he could not like see this podcast or not, but I still remembering those moments, right? It's like it's really really important to being like a humble, and like because humbleness and like a willingness to help is the crucial thing in your life. And you don't require to be like a master to do that. right? Say you have someone below you, because I think in this perspective, right? You have someone above you, you also have someone below you,
Of
right?
course.
If you have someone above you, try to learn from them. If you have someone below you, try to give them your support.
That's
So
lovely.
that's the best. Yeah, that's the best part in teaching too, right? Yeah, as a teacher, I need to improve my work too, and like willingness to learn new things. And as a teacher, I need to share information too. Like I can't like tell like, oh, if I share this secret, like they will become better. No, it's not that. If you share information, you're going to gain more, right? So and I think, yeah, that's the part I think I'm going towards too, as an individual, as an artist, uh, um keeping that identity and like being who am I, and trying to improve on 1% every day. And maybe I might be inspiring someone in their journey, and it's all because it's like we are as a like community and people who support each other and help each other, and because if you go out of your field, you becomes like a complete beginner, right?
Right,
Let's say
and
you
it
can
feels
be an
lonely out there, to be
yeah.
honest.
Let's say you're an amazing artist in your circle, you're amazing, but you go out and
Right,
like in a different field. Like let's say if you're
right.
going to a bank, you are out of 100 customer, you're another customer, right? So it's the same thing. And like don't take it to your heads no matter what level you reach, and try to willingness to improve on everyday basis. And it's like a lifelong journey, and there's no one perfect moment you would feel that you achieved everything. And yeah, and let's say 10 years after, what I'm thinking right now might be changing, right? And that willingness to adapt is what is needed. And don't be constrained about your thought process, because the more information you consume, your knowledge expands, then your thought process also expands.
Of
So
course,
if
of
we need to
course.
wrap this conversation, here are my few thoughts, for someone who is just starting out. Right, let's say first thing, right, like it's a long run, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And that's the
Yes.
thing, right? So that's the first advice. And the second one is would be where and build the networking, right? Build the connections, meet new people and talk with them, share your experience, tell about you more, and like get to know about them more. and
Right.
and you never know when opportunities comes through them, right? So and that's the second thing. And the third thing is about like incremental basis, right? Like it's like a slow and steady, just like work on, right? And if it doesn't click in 2 years or 3 years, like don't quit, or don't tell yourself that, man, other people are entering into the industry, and I'm trying it out, it's not happening. Don't lose
Right.
that momentum, right? Keep the momentum going. At some point it will click, all right? As I said earlier, when I started out in 2011 to 2023 right now, for me the moment it clicked is 2018. I still remember those moments, and everything is
Right.
like starts falling into one place. Maybe the subject matter I learned, it starts, I can, oh, now I understand like all those topics my teacher taught me, and the tutorials I watched, everything starts to click. And yeah, those are the third three. Then fourth one is like focus on your foundation rather than tools and techniques,
Right.
right?
Right.
So go back to the foundation all the time and like try to improve. And if you feel like you learned, then like learn something new, right? Not only in art, I'm saying in something in general in life. And as you, let's say you took like a meditation class, why do you need to take that, right? Because it's keep the
Right.
mental health in good place. If that is
Absolutely.
in bad position, you can't be an amazing artist over here. All right. So yeah, I think yeah, again, advice we can keep on giving, but is like experience the life, enjoy the life. And as I said, everyone is on their own boat. So
Right. Very
right,
true.
like that keep that one thing in mind. And don't expect everything will be similar. If it's not working, don't also be down for that. And always like reach out to people and connect with professionals, right? So that's the part of teaching too. All right. So I really love that, because I'm sharing that experience with people, and I'm making them grow, and so at some
Right.
point they will also do that to the next generation. And that's what our previous generation did that, right? So the people who is willing to share and like let other people live. So yeah, amazing, my man. It was amazing conversation with you and so much things
I
to
loved it.
talk.
Satish, I mean, you're obviously a wonderful teacher. It speaks to your strength so much that a lot of your students who go back and take classes from you again, which shows that they actually know that they're going to get something new every single time they study with you. I have not done a mentorship with you, but I've actually learned a lot from you personally. I try to like, kind of, use those principles in my own life. Even I've attended a workshop that you were conducting, and over there, the brief conversation that we had, I started thinking about my life since then, and I started seeing changes in my thinking process and my work as well. I'm not someone who posts. I'm not a daily art kind of a person, but I do art every single day to like build up towards my own projects, and I
Hey,
see a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
value on that.
Yeah, even
That
like
was
let's say
great.
I also like don't do this daily posting and stuff. Sometimes I'd
Mm-hmm.
be like very focused and keep the momentum going for a month, and
Mm-hmm.
like suddenly that drops out. I'll be focusing on other area, but I
Mm-hmm.
keep coming back to that
Right.
slowly,
Right.
right? Like whenever I'm away, I'm keep coming back to that and enjoying that process. And yeah, because let's say I've seen many artists, let's say even Siddharth Valluri, and like he does like a
Mm-hmm.
really long-term projects and stuff, right,
Right.
getting done. For me, maybe I'm not the person who waits for that like long term and like finishing
Right.
things, because it goes back to the identity,
Right.
right? And what I feel that is good to me, and like what is the process I enjoy the most, I keep
Right.
repeating that, right? Like that's
Right.
why I say like even my students, like what I tell them is like, don't follow the same routine I'm doing, right?
Right.
It may not work for you, because like you may not find joy in doing daily sketches,
Mm-hmm.
or like a weekly sketches. You don't enjoy it, and do whatever you really like. And yeah, man, it was amazing. And thanks for doing this. And we wish like maybe a next podcast in future. And like I wish you the best, and like you're bringing many professionals. I want to like start listening to your podcast. And again, since you're covering the other side of the life, which is really
Mm-hmm.
important for any people, it's not just for artists. And yeah, thanks, man. Amazing. You're doing amazing job. Keep doing this. And yeah, I can't wait to see your podcast, to listen to many amazing professionals and like their life, their lifestyle, and so that I can learn from them. And yeah, you're being the bridge for that. So yeah, awesome.
Wow, thank you so much, Satish. We'll hopefully meet again soon in person. We live close by enough, I believe, so it'll be much easier for us.
Yeah, I think
I'm
yeah, that's the main reason I also started doing that, the artist connection meetups and
right,
stuff
right,
recently. I need to do that very frequently now. Yeah, we'll definitely meet in person
right.
soon. And
Absolutely.
yeah, awesome, bro.
Awesome.
And
Thank you so
yeah.
much.